Good evening. Welcome to our meeting. And please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Sugars, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Sherfain,
Here.
Mrs. Gallagher,
Here.
Mr. Greenbaum,
Here.
Mr. Mayor,
Here.
Dr. Rude, Mrs. Niaz, Mrs. Tong, Mrs. Winters,
Here.
Ms. Stern.
Here. And I'll just read the public notice. Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the Board Secretary on August 6th and August 7th, 2024 in the following manner. Posted notice on the school bulletin board at the administration building, transmitted to the Courier Post, Philadelphia Inquirer, and the clerk of Cherry Hill Township. Okay, so we have no board recognition. Do we have any board recognition tonight?
No.
Okay, and we have some presentations tonight. Turn over to you, Dr. Morton.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Stern. So we actually have two presentations this evening. The first presentation will be a preschool update that will be provided by Dr. Mahan. And I know members of our preschool staff have joined us this evening as well, but I'll turn it over to Dr. Mahan.
Sorry, we're delayed. Thank you. Sorry about that technical difficulties. So I would like to thank the board and Dr. Morton for the opportunity to share information on preschool expansion. So I always like to start with pictures because it is a reminder of the students that we serve. This image is a reading event where students from our high schools went to the preschool locations and read books. So not only are we fostering the academic development and love of reading for our youngest learners, we are also providing opportunities for our high school students to volunteer and to be role models, again, for our youngest learners. So I just wanted to remind you as a quick refresher, how did we get here? So here are just some quick pointers regarding preschool expansion, a quick snapshot. So 5 years to implement, 90% of our universe, what our class size is, that we converted our entire half-day program to full day, and using state-approved curriculum. So on this slide, I want to highlight some major accomplishments over the past 10 months, which have allowed preschool expansion to come to fruition. We were told from the beginning that applications get rejected by the NJDOE, so that we needed to be meticulous with the application. We exhausted every avenue to ensure that we had a strong and competitive application. Ms. Edwards and I worked with a variety of stakeholders, both in and out of the district, to present an application that reflected the high standards of Cherry Hill Public Schools. In addition to that, there was collaboration across departments to ensure that the preschool vision matched the facilities, which led to the application and awarding of additional funding for preschool. These two things highlight the first bullet, being awarded the preschool expansion aid funds on the first application. And then the second bullet, which I will continue to expand on, we were awarded additional funding for the building of 16 additional classrooms and bathroom renovations at Malberg. Again, these things would not have been possible without the support across many departments. While I highlight the work with Mrs. Sugars in the facilities department, that is only one small piece to a very large puzzle. I could have spoken to the registration department, getting all the students registered, or the transportation department securing bus routes, ensuring every bus was properly outfitted and had an aide to support with students loading and unloading the bus, or the HR department in helping to vet teachers at the private provider sites. The list goes on, which leads to my next point. We are 8 months into a 5-year expansion. Let me repeat myself. We are 8 months into a 5-year expansion. The application for preschool was submitted in August of 2023. We are now almost 1 year later. We were notified of the award on October 18th. We implemented full-day preschool district-wide on January 1st, 2024, or 2nd. As again, we are 8 months into a 5-year expansion. I think it is critical for everyone in the room and online to understand that we are in the infancy stages of building our full universe of eligible preschool students. And again, I have to highlight, we continue to have a stellar preschool program, and we have been strategic and intentional in accelerating our enrollment over a 5-year period. So again, because sometimes I can't help myself, we are 8 months into a 5-year expansion. And what does that mean for us? That was 109 school days, and we have yet to enter the 2024-2025 school year. So we are on a path to preschool excellence. And with this path to excellence comes time for reflection. And it is imperative that we reflect because, again, as we are 8 months into a 5-year implementation of adding months on, 8 months in, there are certainly growing pains that we have experienced and things that we certainly recognize that we need to correct. So I start with the strengths or things that we could highlight. It brings me no greater joy than to report that we have happy students. And when we have happy students, we have happy parents. And that was consistent across all of our preschool provider locations this year. The program has been implemented with fidelity, which again supports happy and engaged students. And then I mentioned course correcting to excellence because sometimes we don't have happy students and we need to correct as we are building the program. And we recognize that in order to move to excellence, we have to make changes to the program along the way. A second strength is the curriculum. We have been able to enhance the implementation of creative curriculum at the preschool level. That program is not new to the district and or to the preschool, but we have had multiple opportunities to implement with fidelity, provide consistency with materials and resources and training, and growth in what we have seen our students be able to do. Next, developmental growth. So these are things that you may look at and chuckle, but for preschool students, these are huge milestones. So when you are able to speak to a preschool student engaging in family style meals, sharing in snack, talking and having conversations across the table, expanding their food palette, these are major milestones. We are supporting toileting with our preschool students. Social interactions through play is daily, And then independence. This is one that I'm not sure they will have it by the time they end preschool, but cleaning up after themselves. I'm still working on that in the Mahan household. Some decision making and just overall independence are all things that we have seen our students certainly grow in over the last, again, 109 school days. Additionally, professional development. So professional development was abundant this year, and I would have to say possibly too much. And I never thought I would say that as a curricularist or one who is responsible for professional development in the district, because I'm always begging for more PD time. But Ms. Edwards certainly put forth a professional development plan that was aggressive, but necessary to ensure that we were able to implement our programs with fidelity. And I think that has helped to ensure the academic growth of our students. And again, I just want to highlight that teaching strategies and creative curriculum are not new to Malberg, but we have been able to enhance the capacity of both of those programs. This year, we also had professional development in Second Step, which is our social emotional learning program. It replaced OWL's PALS, which had been used in previous years. And lastly, as we think about professional development, myself, Ms. Edwards, who is the Malberg Early Childhood Center principal, and Zanetta Bronson, who is the preschool instructional coach, participated in the Early Childhood Environmental Rating Scale training. It was 5 days of intensive professional development. And on this slide, I think I captured it very quickly: trained, observed, passed. And the most important to this is that we passed. And not only did we passed with flying colors so that we are able to not only train our own staff, but we can also train other staff, which is a kudos, to myself and the others who participated, because again, we were told that people do not always pass on the first go around. And there is inter-rater reliability with all of our scores, what we are observing in classrooms, and the measures that we are expected to assess all of our classes. The Early Childhood Environment Rating Scale, also known as ECHRS, is used as a way to measure a range of factors that impact a child's experience, including pre-K, cognitive, social, emotional, physical, and health and safety areas. So while all of those things really highlight strengths, there are certainly growth areas. So some areas to highlight where we can certainly improve: communication. So the first thing is the icon. So in the bottom right-hand corner of all of my slides, you see the icon for preschool. Initially, we were sending things out, and that is the icon that is used for Malberg. And things were saying Malberg, Malberg. And we changed that because we wanted to be inclusive of the other private provider sites. And when thinking about the other private provider sites, recognizing that we are no longer dealing with one school in isolation that is an in-district building, but two additional locations, which we also needed to bring into the fold. So we recognize that communication needs to be more frequent, more timely, and more consistent across all of our locations. And I will speak to this more because as we continue to expand, we will have additional private provider sites for the 24-25 school year. Another area of growth is community engagement. We heard numerous times from numerous stakeholders that there was not a sense of community, and Malberg has had a very strong sense of community over the years. And that seemed to be a little diminished with the expansion, where families who were at the private provider sites felt like they were not necessarily included in all of the things that the district has to offer. So again, I will speak to this in a few more slides, but I have to give credit to Amanda Gerard, who is our community parent involvement specialist, who I will introduce shortly, for creating a calendar of events. So when you talk about how are we course correcting along the way, We have a full year calendar of events that was shared today, not only with all of the private provider sites to give us input to ensure that we're all on the same page, but it is also being shared with the Early Childhood Advisory Committee. It was shared today in an agenda and asked all of those members to please take a look so that they could provide feedback. The application process. So last year we were awarded in October and the program started January 1st and we had to get everyone registered. We began the registration process much earlier this year and we try to ensure that all of our forms, things that we may have possibly misstepped on last year were addressed this year. So 2 concrete examples. The first one is that we included, do you need before and after care as part of the registration process? That was one thing that we've included. Second thing we did was we asked very specific questions to determine if families could potentially be categorically eligible for Head Start services so that we would be able to capture those families. One component of the preschool expansion grant is to ensure that we are outreaching to historically underrepresented populations to ensure that they are included in the program. So again, some things that we have course corrected for 2024, 2025 registration. And the last area that I have to highlight, and I would be remiss if I did not, is Malberg is certainly in a time of transition. So while Malberg has had a stellar reputation with preschool expansion, there definitely needed to be changes that occurred. Those changes needed to occur to align with the expectation of the preschool expansion grant. And with that, we have certainly seen some issues of trust, which I can say I have contributed to because there are things that are non-negotiable in preschool expansion. And my role as assistant superintendent being as actively involved in a building is not typical. But in this particular instance, I was there, visible, giving mandates, saying what was non-negotiable, what was negotiable, and also directing the building principal. So, you know, I think my communication style is different in this role than it was as a building principal. And when we're trying to implement a wholesale change, that can sometimes be, you know, not always received in the way that you intend for it to be received. So that is a course correction. We had a major shift from a half-day program to a full-day program that is historical in the opportunities that we are able to offer here in Cherry Hill. That is definitely a shift in what we have seen in previous years. We also shifted to a much more academic focus. We went from a 3-hour day to a 6-hour day. And although we still have a play-based mentality, there is an academic component that cannot be pushed off. It is certainly an academic-based program. We have also switched how we utilize some of our spaces in the building. The APR is being used for gross motor activities and OT support. So we have also seen some turnover in staff. However, we see this as an opportunity to build a solid foundation. I can assure you that as educators, the initial training we received and the realities we face daily in the classroom do not always match. So while there is change, and with change comes opportunity, and I think that we have a great opportunity to continue to build upon the excellent program which Malberg is known for in the community, but expanding that and not only replicating that across the private provider sites. So preschool is popular. So here's another picture. This is just one of the many activities that we had last year. We had a swim school come out to speak to our students about water safety. And you can see that Nemo has a very captive audience there. So everyone wants a seat in Cherry Hill Public Schools preschool. And if we could go back Again, I remind you, just 8 short months ago, I would have said we need to have 1,700 seats from day one. Now, is that possibility? We all know that is not the case. However, the popularity of full day preschool is definitely there. Everyone wants to get into the program. Everyone, even in a private provider site, recognizes that this can have a tremendous impact on a family. So not only academically, educationally, but also financially. So we had 538 families apply, and we have been able to move numerous families off the wait list and continue to move students as slots become available. Unfortunately, there are still 280 families on the wait list. So you need a full team, I am learning, from day one for preschool expansion. And that is certainly something that I would recommend to any other district who is writing a preschool aid application. So tonight, I would like to introduce the newest members of our team, and I'm looking forward to working closely with these individuals. I'm a strong believer in collaboration, critical discourse, and reflection to develop a strong academic program. This was already demonstrated through the implementation of the full day kindergarten program, and we have really worked to replicate that with the implementation of preschool expansion. So with that, I'd like to turn your attention to the audience, and I'm gonna call out my colleagues. I would like Diana Polito to please stand. She is the preschool intervention and referral specialist. She is a veteran teacher from Malberg with, I believe, 20 years of experience in the classroom. She comes to this role with a depth of knowledge and expertise. Next, I would like to introduce Amanda Gerard, who is the community parent involvement specialist. She is new to Cherry Hill, but not new to community outreach and parental involvement. She is a former DCP&P worker who has numerous connections to social service agencies as well as private community partners. Thank you, Amanda. Next, we have Catherine Briggs, who is the preschool social worker. Catherine comes to us with experience at the preschool level. She was a former CPIS, so Amanda's role, in a different district, but she has a background in social work. So she comes to us with experience and eager to join the Cherry Hill Public Schools team. Thank you. And lastly, Zanetta Bronson, who is the preschool instructional coach. This is formerly known as the master teacher at the preschool level. Zanetta has been in Cherry Hill now for 5 years and comes to us with over 20 years of experience as a preschool educator and has transitioned into the role as preschool instructional coach. Earlier, I mentioned the Eckers training. So I like to say that I'm pretty competitive, and I found out there might be somebody else in the ranks with me who is more competitive. And Zanetta pushed me and Miss Edwards to be better. I can tell you that. So her knowledge of creative curriculum and her ability to see what is happening in a classroom is stellar. So I strongly believe that this team, working closely with me now, all of you please stand back up again, because when I speak to the we of preschool expansion, this is who I'm speaking to. So again, just so everyone knows, we have Amanda Gerard, who is the community parent involvement specialist. Next, Zanetta Bronson, who is the preschool instructional coach. Then we have Diana Polito, who is the preschool intervention and referral specialist. And lastly, Catherine Briggs, who is the preschool social worker. All of these positions come directly from Preschool Expansion Aid. And as we continue to expand the program, we will have more preschool instructional coaches, social workers, and intervention and referral specialists. So I can tell you that with the support of these 4 individuals, I think that many of the things that I mentioned earlier as areas of growth will certainly be remedied, because when you have a full team, it certainly makes a difference. So just by them being here tonight is a testament to the collaboration that has already taken place and the collaboration that is to come. So thank you so much. Thank you, but I'm not done. So 5-year growth. So in our initial application to the Department of Education, we were asked to include projected growth over a 5-year period to get our full universe of eligible 3- and 4-year-olds. This is what was submitted. So I just want to remind everyone as a district what we actually submitted. I share this because there is a notion that we are not growing, when in fact we are growing. And as a district, we were intentional regarding a slow start and accelerated enrollment in years 3, 4, and 5 based on additional classroom space and partnering with private providers. A major factor that contributes to the success of our program is partnering with private providers. We must have private providers in order to make this successful. When you talk about 1,700 students, that equates to approximately 116 classrooms. The Department of Ed and other districts spoke candidly with us when we initially applied about the importance of partnerships and the demands extending outside of the school district will create. So something else to consider is that overall with preschool expansion, we did see a decrease in overall enrollment initially because we converted our half-day program to full day. I think sometimes that's lost in the conversation, but that is where we saw a decrease. So previously, when a teacher had 2 classrooms or 2 sessions of preschool with 20 students each, when we converted, now they had 1 class of 15 for a full day. So that certainly impacts the numbers overall. So where are we? So for this year, again, I keep saying 8 months, but we've had 109 school days from our January start date. Discovery Corner had 3 classes. Malberg had 11 classes. Mosaic had 3 classes. And you see the number of students at each location. So the total preschool expansion students equaled 189 students. That does not include the number of students who are receiving services through inclusion that are also at our locations. So a total of 255 students for 2023, 2024. I also note that these numbers do not include students in our self-contained classes. This year, we had approximately 71 students in self-contained. So as I move through the next few slides, keep in mind that we are serving as many eligible preschool students as possible, but through different funding sources. So we're funding students through preschool expansion, as well as through general funds with special education funds. I highlight this because even though we have 5 years to meet our preschool universe, in my mind, students who are eligible for services are included in that preschool expansion number. So where are we for 2024, 2025? So I'm just going to start at the bottom and work my way up on this slide. Again, these numbers do not include students who participate in our self-contained classes, but we do anticipate approximately 80 students in self-contained classes for this coming school year. We are increasing by 8 classes, which is 120 general education seats. So from last year to this year, and when I say last year, again, we're talking January 1st to now, we're adding 8 additional classes and 120 additional seats. You can see on the chart that we are also partnering with Cadence Academy, new to us this year, as well as KinderCare, who is new to us this year. I also want to add, so you'll see our overall numbers in terms of preschool expansion students, and then students if you include our inclusion students in that number as well. But I think sometimes, again, lost in translation when we share numbers, there are not actually 309 students who are going to be selected to participate this year. Why? Because the program is for 3 and 4-year-olds. So if you are selected in the program as a 3-year-old, you remain in the program. So you really are taking that number minus the number of 3-year-olds who are currently enrolled in the program and then selecting the remaining seats. So every year we have to continue to add. So I just showed a slide where you could see all of the private providers that we are working with. So I just want to take a minute for those who are in the audience, those who are online, those who are in the community, and the media who is here tonight, if they would like to publish this. This is a public service announcement. We are calling all private providers in Cherry Hill. We need you to make preschool expansion successful. As we continue towards serving our 3 and 4-year-old universe, we must partner with private providers. We have reached out to all of the private providers in Cherry Hill as well as in the surrounding areas. If you're interested, please contact me. I have to say it will be difficult for us to reach our 5-year goal without these partnerships. We do not have 116 classrooms in district to house preschool students. Cal Rostov, who is the supervisor of special projects, and I recently met with a possible organization to partner. So we continue to explore every possible avenue to partnerships. So the next few slides are really just reminders. I want to try to wrap up. This again is the schedule that is followed tentatively, followed at all of our locations. We continue to implement creative curriculum and use teaching strategies. One of the questions that I recently received was, do we still have traditional encore classes? So PE, art, music at the preschool level. So as part of preschool expansion, traditional encore classes, which we have had in the elementary school and have had some iteration of encore classes at the Early Childhood Center, are actually discouraged in the PEA grant. So PEA wants to maximize time in classroom and eliminate transition times. So with that being said, through preschool expansion, they want to see opportunities for complete integration in the classroom, which includes art, music, library, all integrated in the academic setting. So these opportunities are not separate parts of the schedule, and students are not leaving the classroom for those. Transportation, again, all of our buses have an aid to support loading and unloading students. Buses are equipped with built-in car seats if necessary. Transportation information will be posted in Genesis for our preschool students, just like for our K through 12 students. And a huge kudos out to Linda King, who is our transportation supervisor, and the members of the transportation department in not only securing all of the buses, securing the bus bids or preparing the bus bids, securing the buses, and making sure that all of our buses are equipped not only with a driver, but also an aid to support our youngest learners. Before and after care. So each location will have before and after care. Pricing is set by the location. Times are set by the location. For Malberg, right at school will be the provider. We're working diligently to get that information finalized. Again, the contract was awarded 2 weeks ago. So there was information that they needed from us. We have been working with Julie Lyons to ensure that she has everything she needs. Today, Amanda, who I just introduced as the community parent involvement specialist, and I were working on a flyer with all the details for all of the before and after care programs that will be shared with parents in their back to school information. But private providers have already begun to share the information with parents as requested. To my knowledge, the only location that does not have this information to date is the Malberg Early Childhood Center, which is forthcoming. Communication. So again, as we think about how can we course correct to improve and address the areas of growth, we talked about a calendar of events, consistency, planning ahead, and community partnerships, a newsletter that will now be coming from the community parent involvement specialist, because we want everyone to be in the know. And then the PTA. So Malberg has had fluctuation with the PTA over the years because, as a preschool parent, I remember it just comes and goes so fast. And you're like, wait a minute, I didn't even join the PTA and you want me to be the PTA president. So, you're adjusting to, for many of our families, it's their first child entering school and the PTA may not necessarily be the priority. So we definitely need parental support. One of the things that we are trying to bring back this year to Malberg are room parents, not only at Malberg, but also at the private provider sites, and then private provider liaisons who will work closely with me and the directors at each of the locations. So just some ideas to ensure that we have an active and bustling PTA to support what is going on in the schools. The Early Childhood Advisory Committee, we will be meeting August 22nd, and then those are the dates for us to be meeting throughout the academic year. And then lastly, and I can tell you, this is completely my fault. I own it. So everyone heard me say it. Preschool orientation. So I scheduled, I won't say we, because it's not we, it's me. I scheduled preschool orientation and K orientation on the same day, same time. So we do that because it gives teachers an opportunity to prepare their classrooms and to welcome students into the room for the first time so that they can see their classroom before the first day of school. I underestimated the number of families who have a preschool student and a K student. So parents have reached out to me. Next year, we will change the times and the dates. We try to stay away from the Friday before Labor Day weekend, which is why we do them on Thursday. So I will adjust those times next year. So if anyone has had a conflict that has reached out, I've told the private providers to please accept all of the preschool families to accept students either earlier or after so that they can certainly see the location in advance. And if that's not the case, please feel free to reach out to me because I have had several calls and I've had even some district staff who have children who are going to preschool and to K reach out and say like, Farah, what are you thinking? What are you doing? So definitely an area of growth for next year. I end with just some artwork. I believe this is from Dr. Morton's office. We had some preschool artwork hung as we do all the time. And this is from the visit. So again, we always like to highlight what our preschool students are doing. And we know that we will continue to have a stellar preschool program as we move forward. Might recognize some people in that picture. Any questions? Mr. Mayor?
Not a ton of questions. First of all, let me thank you in particular for not glossing over areas of growth. I think, sometimes we tend to do that and it's not helpful. Rolling out such a multifaceted, brand new major initiative like this was going to create some issues and speed bumps. I don't think any of them were necessarily unanticipated. But I really appreciate the fact that you've taken some time and your team has taken time to figure out, how to take those as learning moments and move forward and to improve. So thank you for that. And specifically for recognizing that even in your role, and as you said earlier, your communication style has to be a little bit different. That is refreshing, and I think speaks loudly for how successful you and this program is going to be. I know how competitive you are, and that you don't settle for success. And seeing that there's areas of opportunity and growth, I think it's the kind of thing that you're going to excel at, and the program will. So thank you. And for the team, everyone that's come out here today, we appreciate that greatly. I do have a question little more specifically, in the next 4 months and 4 years, assuming my math is correct, growth is, that's a concern. You've talked about it, and I know that you're aggressively trying to identify private providers. Can you give me a little idea of like, A, what does that look like aside from trying to just get the word out that we're looking and we'd like to partner with you? Can you give us a little more detail on like how does that go? How are you identifying who might be out there? What is the approach? And then more importantly, at least for me, if you had a magic wand, what could we as a board do to help support your efforts to bring new private providers on?
Okay, great questions, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. So what is the approach? So again, we really try to replicate what we did for the implementation of full day K with the implementation of preschool expansion. So I already had a relationship with all of the private providers in the community because approximately 7 years ago, I went out to all of them and said, hi, sorry, we're going to be implementing full day K, which may impact your programs. So we started this conversation again 7 years ago, not connected to preschool expansion, but to full day K. So what does that outreach look like? I reached out to all of them. There's approximately 40 something private providers in Cherry Hill Township. We invite them into district. We meet actually in this room. I share a presentation with them about preschool expansion. What does preschool expansion include? What does it entail? What are the expectations and the requirements for the program? Some of them invite me out to their site to see if they even meet the general specifications, 750 square feet, minimum for classroom space, bathrooms in line of sight of the classroom and or in the classroom, looking at certifications of their current staff. So then, we start the conversation there. If a private provider asks for more details, I will meet with them in like one-on-one meetings, and some of them have questions around, tell me more about the financial part. And I ask Vicky Silva, who is our preschool fiscal specialist, to come and sit in and talk to them about that. If they have questions about transportation, Linda King sits in. So we try to really target and individualize the conversations. Once we have the large group conversation, then it really trickles down to small group conversations. I also do site visits. Those site visits entail me visiting, meeting with the director, going over the specifications again, walking their facility, looking at their outdoor play space, their parking lot, transportation, bus potential drop-off and pickups. And then they either say, we're not really interested at this time, or, hey, it's something we'd like to explore. So even though I've probably done that 4 times since we started to pursue preschool expansion, and we'll continue to do that. Sometimes people reach out to me. I've also reached out to, there are a number of private provider locations that are being built in the township. I also reach out to their corporate offices to ask them if they would be interested. So before they even accept, actually, before they're even built, they just have a sign on the property. I'm reaching out to say, would you even be interested in just having your entire building as preschool expansion for Cherry Hill? So that's how we're reaching out. The second question, support the effort from the board with private providers. I mean, if you see any signs going up, if you have any connections with private providers, certainly share my information so that I can reach out to them. If you know anyone who has, warehouse space that's already converted and outfitted that would like to have preschool expansion, that's also an option. So hopefully that answers. You're welcome. Any other, Ms. Gallagher?
So, Mr. Mayor kind of took one of my questions about just expansion. So Malberg specifically, Looking at the number of students that are at Malberg, it shows 99 students with, is it 10, 11 classrooms? Do we have a smaller do we have a smaller enrollment in those classrooms?
We do not. So the reason why there are 99 students is because we have inclusion. So 6 of the seats, so although there's 15 seats, 6 of those seats are designated for inclusion. So students who have who are identified for special services.
That makes sense. And then speaking of Malberg as well, so as the population of preschool increases, do you see the concern that Malberg will not?
Go ahead.
That Malberg will not meet the needs of our preschool, elementary, preschool, oh my gosh, population, special education preschool
Preschool disabled.
population. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I got you. We're on the same page. So I do not. I think so far we have been able to continue to do a really nice job with supporting the students who are identified as preschool disabled. And again, I think your conversation goes down 2 paths. So we have students who participate in inclusion, and then we have students who participate in self-contained classes. So, as our population continues to grow, I don't know the supports that our incoming students will need, but to date, we have been able to provide all the necessary services and supports for them.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Mrs. Winters?
Thanks. Just to piggyback off Ms. Gallagher's question, even though they're not preschool expansion students, one of the things that happened when we converted from half day to full day was that all of our half day special education students also went to full day. So can you just talk a little bit about the benefit of the expanded opportunities for special education students and the opportunities for inclusion that they have with the preschool expansion general education students as well?
Yes. So I think one of the things that we always talk about in life is the gift of time. So anytime you are able to have students, whether identified as preschool disabled or not, who are participating not only in a 6-hour program versus a 3-hour program, certainly lends itself to having more academic experiences, social experiences, developmentally appropriate experiences. So I think that's one of the major factors that will support our students, not only in the preschool disabled self-contained classrooms, our inclusion students, as well as our general education students. I think that's a universal, can be applied universally. Benefits or opportunities for inclusion, I think that this is something that continues to be an area in which we need to do better. While there are certainly opportunities for all of our students to participate in programs, I think we definitely need to think about more strategically how we have our self-contained students and our general education students in daily interactions engaging. So that could look, and I'm really thinking beyond assemblies and things like that, but really opportunities for play, not only in the classroom, but on the playground, opportunities when they are in the all-purpose room for organized gross motor skills and fine motor skills, opportunities for reading and play-based interactions. I think that's something that we certainly need to be more strategic about. While those opportunities did occur this year, I think that the volume in which they occurred was not to the expectation that we would like.
Thank you. I mean, I'm preschool's biggest fan, and I had 3 kids go through the former Barclay program. And one of the greatest benefits, I had 2 typically developing and 1 special education student at Malberg. And one of the benefits was the interaction between all the different populations in that building. I thought it was an asset to all of my students' growth to interact with all different kinds of preschoolers, and the building supported that. So that's something that I'm looking forward to continuing to evolve going forward. I just wanted to also, just connecting to some of the other work we've done in CNI this year. Those of you on the committee, the rest of the board, that we did an evaluation of the full day kindergarten program that Dr. Mahan also successfully headed years ago. And I was a parent on that committee. And one of the things that the kindergarten evaluation brought out was the importance of social interactions for our kindergartners and how that's a kindergarten skill. And I just really believe that this preschool program is going to support that. I think that the social interaction that kids are practicing at ages 3 and 4, we're going to see that migrating up to the kindergarten level and strengthening that, which was a core competency that kindergarten teachers and first grade teachers, when we asked them, called out. And I also think that the switch to second step at the preschool level, which is the social emotional learning program that we have from K to 5, aligning that from pre-K all the way to 5 now is going to help, because our kindergarten teachers and our first grade teachers called out social emotional learning as a core competency, something they wanted to focus on in full day K. And I think backing that up into the preschool curriculum, having it be the same program now from age 3 all the way up through 5th grade is just going to help strengthen those competencies for those students. And I also just really wanted to commend you for the Ecker scale. It's something that I'm very familiar with from the work that I did years and years ago. And it really is, it's rigorous, it's thorough. And I want to commend you and your entire team for the work you put into that. It's such a key component of this program, assuring that our classrooms are set up the way they should be, our kids are learning what they need to learn, and also that our classrooms are consistent. And I think that's it. When people talk to me about the preschool program, one of the key questions I get asked is, how are we assuring that there's consistency among classrooms, both within Malberg and then also now in our private provider sites? And the Ecker scale is the mechanism by which we measure and know that our kids who are at Discovery Corner are receiving the same Cherry Hill preschool experience as our kids at Malberg. Same with the new providers coming online, Mosaic, all of those. So I just really want to commend you, because that is a huge accomplishment for the district, for your team. So thank you so much. I did have just one more question. One thing that wasn't touched on in the presentation, but was mentioned, was our Head Start preschool students. So could you just give me a little bit of information on what are the special supports and benefits that our Head Start preschool students receive as part of that program?
So families who participate at Mosaic, well, let me just clarify that we have students at the Mosaic Early Learning Center who are not eligible for Head Start. They are considered a private provider classroom. And then we have students who are eligible for Head Start services. If your child is assigned to Mosaic, whether you are eligible or not, you receive access to services. So some of the things that they provide are full wraparound services to support nutrition and health and wellness. They have a nutrition and wellness coordinator on site. They also connect families to social service agencies for additional support, whether that is helping to reinstate TANF or SNAP benefits, or needing support from a food pantry, or needing support with clothing and other, access to the internet, or help with paying your PSE&G bill. So they have someone similar to what we have as the community parent involvement specialist. That person is called a family worker, and their role is sole engagement with the families to make sure that they are supported in all aspects of their child's development. And that support reaches out even to supports for the family. So not only are they looking at the preschool child who is in the building, they are also looking at the family makeup. They do home visits, and they provide what I would call full wraparound services to support the entire family through a social service agency perspective.
That is phenomenal and wonderful. Thank you so much for everything that you did to effectuate that, because I think it's really going to be a difference maker for our families. When we talk in CNI about some of the disparities and the gaps that we see that begin to become apparent as early as grade 3, we were talking about in the last meeting. I think that when you back that up and you look at supporting our families in all the ways that we can, accessing every funding stream, every benefit we can get to ensure that all of our children have the same opportunities starting in preschool at age 3 and going forward, I think it's really going to make a difference as these children grow through the years. So thank you for everything that you're doing. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Shervain?
So first you did a great job of shouting out your team, but I wanted to give a personal shout out to Miss Gerald and even Miss Case Abner for being very responsive and helpful in their communication. So thank you. I also don't have questions, but just a few comments. The one thing that I know we did a good job of finding a provider site for SAC at Malberg, but something that I think might arise in the future and something that maybe we can start having conversations about is if there's any way of standardizing those costs across. I know we don't have jurisdiction over private providers, but just putting it out there that maybe that's something that we can start talking about, given that they are kind of allowed to charge whatever they want, essentially. The other thing, this presentation was very helpful, so maybe we can figure out how to get stuff like this into new websites and things that we're doing in the future. I think that was very helpful. Another thing, and this might already be happening, and my apologies if it is, I don't know, but another thing that maybe we can start talking about is how I know at Malberg, we have standard assessment tools that the teachers use for the students. I'm not sure if the provider sites use things at all or like that. So that might be something that we need to discuss. And I'm going to put another plug in for this. I said this a couple meetings ago, but now that we're going to hopefully have hundreds of children in preschool, I know that I've seen a lot of children in elementary schools, and I can pick out the ones that were clearly daycare kids and clearly ones that were not. And now that we have a tremendous, hopefully in the future, we'll have a tremendous amount of children that have at least 2 years of some sort of standard or structured schooling before they get to kindergarten. Maybe that's something we can look into for enrollment in kindergarten. So this is not really necessarily me directing this towards you, but something I know I had mentioned a couple meetings ago of enrollment into kindergarten and that cutoff that it's a strict date of birth. And now that we'll have children that are hopefully far more prepared for kindergarten when they come in, if there's any way that we can reassess that for children that might be beyond their kindergarten year by the time they get to kindergarten because of that experience, just something, again, I don't know what that jurisdiction looks like, but something that we can hopefully start talking about.
Thank you. So in regards to enrollment, that conversation will circle back to me because that's a policy. So now I have P&L. And then Ms. Bronson, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we do have consistent assessment tools across the private provider sites. We use Teaching Strategies Gold, and that is a complement to Creative Curriculum.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mrs. Stern.
So just a few things. So, exciting to see already how much has changed and for the, how much we've learned and how much has happened, I should say, in such a short time. It's also exciting to think about how in demand this is, which of course makes sense, but it's still, I don't think there's too much that's more popular in Cherry Hill right now than preschool. So in terms of the demand and the interest and the excitement. So it's great. I want to thank you for providing the ECAC dates, the quarterly meeting dates. It's something that I think would be incredibly helpful in terms of communication, in terms of stakeholder engagement, in terms of, the growth areas. I do want to ask if, in terms of the communication, because that's always a pain point, it's a pain point for our entire district. It's an area that we, have a big survey that, came through that, showed we need better communication across the board, right? So I think in terms of the families at Malberg and that newsletter that you referenced, which is fantastic, do you have an anticipated date that will go out for those families? And what kind of information is typically in the newsletter, just to give us an idea?
So the newsletter that has gone out this year was generated by Miss Edwards, who's the principal of the Early Childhood Center. The messaging goes out weekly to families, which is one of our board and district goals in terms of communication weekly with our families to ensure that we are communicating. This year, we are taking a slightly different approach. Again, Ms. Gerard will be leading that up along with the other individuals in the room, but she will be taking the lead. We want to highlight all of the locations. So each of the locations will be asked to provide something for that newsletter. That's the vision. And then there will be areas for the community parent involvement specialist to have highlights about upcoming events, opportunities for Barbara Case Abner, who is the preschool nurse, to have like, hey, this is a quick tip for you for healthy habits and hygiene for your preschooler. There will be opportunities for the social worker to talk about how we can, Miss Briggs, talk about how you can support your child from a social emotional perspective. So, and also Ms. Polito, here are some strategies that you could potentially use to support behaviors at home. So there are, and and in school. So we already tried to segment all of the different areas that really lend itself to the overall preschool program, and then thinking about when we would insert them into the newsletter strategically during the academic year when they make the most sense. So that's the framework we have. It will continue to be most likely on, I want to say Canva. Heather Esposito, help me out. What do we? Okay, yeah, Canva. There's a different one where we S'more. Thank you. Where we build the newsletters and then they are distributed out to the community. So
That sounds great. It sounds like a lot of really great information. In terms of communication with the incoming families for this year. So, and I don't know if I misheard you, but I thought you said that the private provider sites have had kind of a incoming family newsletter or communication, but the Malberg hadn't gone out. So I guess maybe I misunderstood. When have those families gotten information, like our Malberg families, in terms of, introduction, welcome to the new school year, SAC information, all like, has that all gone out already? Or when will that go out if not?
So consistent with the rest of the district, I believe that is all supposed to go out around the 22nd. I have to go back and refer to the memo that Dr. Birdie and Mr. Guy prepared for us. So that communication will come out from my office with a school calendar, welcome to the academic year, similar to what our K-5 buildings currently send out to families. What you referenced in regards to Malberg information, that was only in regards to the before and after care program, not anything else. So right now our parents have received, and again, like bus information will load into Genesis for all of our families to have. They already know the location that they've been assigned to. They have all been invited to the preschool orientation. So additional information will come out aligned with how we share communication across the K-12 spectrum.
And I guess the question, and it's not for asking for an answer, but just a thought is, is that because we hear so much of this, there's a lot of uncertainty. These are new families to the district. Their kids are very little. A lot of them have a lot of understandable questions, concerns about their kids riding buses and their kids, getting to know their classrooms. And I really appreciate, that you're ensured that those families do get to bring those kids to the provider sites regardless of the time of day. If they have, kids visiting kindergarten. I remember my kids meeting their kindergarten teacher and, one of them just refused to walk and he just refused to go. He literally just laid on the floor and wouldn't walk. There's some of them are really scared about it. So, I wondering if we want to look at, and this is, I guess, more for the ECAC committee, but, or in earlier times, giving them more lead up time. And I think especially too, thinking about before and after care, families plan months in advance. Families plan months in advance for childcare. For, if they're in daycare, they plan months in advance, sometimes years, believe it or not, which is amazing. But, and child, before and after care, it's just, I think understanding the needs of those families. And I think many of us here are also parents who work outside the home and understand that. Really making sure that they have enough lead time. As a kind of like a growth opportunity, I guess it sounds like whether or not it makes sense to align it with, kindergarten and high school kids, that their information going out, I don't know. And I don't know if, if we know that from other places have been doing this more than 8 months. So it just hasn't been that long necessarily, except I guess the former Abbott districts, they've been doing it a lot, 20, 25 years, I guess it is. But yeah, so those are kind of thoughts of mine. Thank you.
Point noted. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you so much. And again, I just want to say tonight, I know this was very long, longer than you've probably ever heard me speak. But we have a full team. I'm excited to work with that team. And team, you got to see what Dr. Mahan goes through at these meetings. So just know that as we move forward, you will hear less of my voice and more of the team's voice, because similar to the implementation of full day K, this is not Dr. Mahan's program. This is a district program with a variety of voices helping to ensure that we have a successful preschool implementation and program. And without the support of a number of departments and many of the individuals you see here in the room tonight, we would not be where we are right now. Again, 8 months in, 109 school days in. So opportunities for growth, a path to excellence, and looking forward to the future. So thank you, team, for supporting me this evening, and hope you took lots of notes too. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Dr. Mahan and to the team. We really appreciate your being here on a summer night a few weeks before everything really gets going. So, all right, Dr. Morton, I understand we have another presentation.
Absolutely. Yes, we have another presentation, another exciting one. Thank you so much, Dr. Mahan and members of our preschool staff for joining us. At this point, we'll call up Faith Holmgren. Mark, is it possible that can we set her up with the microphone? Okay, fantastic. So we have Faith Holmgren and Miss Nora Santiago as well with us, working along with Miss Staffen, and they are going to present NJGPA data. I'll turn it over to you, Faith.
All right. Can everyone hear me? Okay, perfect. Good evening. My name is Faith Holmgren, and I work in the Office of Assessment along with my counterpart, Nora, formerly Santiago, or formerly Smaldor, newly Santiago. I'm going to get it someday, Nora. Tonight, I am going to be presenting the results from Spring 2024 New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment, which is also known as the NJGPA. Before I begin and dive into the presentation, I would like to provide you with a few very key pieces of information. So the Spring 2024 results that I'm presenting are compared to the results from Spring 2023. The Spring 2022 administration was a field test, and because the cut score of what is considered graduation ready changed from 750 in 2023 to 2022, to 725 for 2023 and 2024, we were given the direction from the New Jersey Department of Education to not use those 2022 results for comparison purposes. Okay, so we will only be comparing 23 to 24. Hopefully I will not get tongue-tied again. The New Jersey state statute requires the NJGPA to be administered to all grade 11 students. It is designed to measure the extent to which students are graduation ready in ELA, English Language Arts, and mathematics. The ELA component of the assessment is aligned to grade 10 NJSLS ELA standards, and the math component is aligned to Algebra 1 as well as geometry standards. As I just mentioned, the proficiency level cut score for ELA and mathematics was revised by the NJDOE in May of 2023 from 750 to 725. The students who take but do not meet the minimum cut score have a few ways in which they can meet the graduation assessment requirement. They may retake the ELA and or mathematics component this coming fall. They may meet the designated cut score from the menu of substitute competency tests, or they may complete a portfolio appeal. Moving into our data, here you can find the comparison of how our district performed compared to students in the entire state in spring of 23, as well as spring of 2024 for both ELA and mathematics. You will notice there are only two categories that our students can fall into: graduation ready or not graduation ready. For ELA, 91% of our students are considered graduation ready, which is an increase from 88.5% of our students in 2023. 9% of our students were considered not graduation ready for 2024, which is a decrease from 11.5% in 23. This is the trend that we want to see continue. For mathematics, 66.5% of our students are considered graduation ready. We saw a decrease in this data from 23, of which 68.4% of our students were considered graduation ready. However, for 2024, we are still above the state average, which is 54.7%. On the next two slides, we will break down the data by school for each content area. Looking at the data for the ELA component of the assessment for our high schools, again, you can find the comparison between 23 and 24. For spring 2024 at East, 93.4% of our students are considered graduation ready, compared to 90.5% in 23. And at West, 87.3% of our students are considered graduation ready, compared to 86.3% in 23. And for your review or information, we have also included the student counts for each of these percentages. Moving on to the mathematics results by school. At East, 77.1% of our students are considered graduation ready, while 77.0% were considered graduation ready in 2023. So you will note that there was a very small increase here, but again, an increase. And at High School West, in 2024, 50.3% are considered graduation ready, while 59.5% of our students were considered graduation ready in 2023. You've seen a comparison of how the district performed compared to the states in my earlier slide, or to the state, I'm sorry, in my earlier slides. Now on the next two slides, you can find the comparison between each high school and the district as a whole. Here we start with East. You can see this data for 2024 compared to 2023 for both ELA and mathematics. Followed by the next slide, which includes that same data for High School West, comparing 23 to 24 for both content areas. We will now move on to the portion of the presentation that provides you with the NJGPA data by subgroup. Please note that the blue bar graph represents the year 2023 and the orange bar graph represents 2024. Here you can find the subgroup data for race and ethnicity for ELA, along with the comparison of years. The bar graph displayed at the far right of this chart indicates all students, so you are able to see how these subgroups performed comparable to all students. Here on this next slide, you can see that same data for those subgroups for mathematics, again, comparing 23 to 24. The next two slides provide us with the data for the following subgroups: students with disabilities, our English language learners, and economically disadvantaged. Here you can find that comparable data from 23 to 24 for English language arts, and the data for those same subgroups for mathematics. So as we started to unpack the spring 2024 NJ GPA data, a question arose around how many of our students were within a close score of passing this assessment, often referred to as those who performed within the bubble. And we dove in and found some very interesting data, which we will share over the next few slides. So here you can find this quote unquote bubble data for the district as a whole for both ELA and mathematics. So keep in mind, the passing score for both content areas is 725. For ELA as a district, we have 17 students who performed within the 700 to 711 range and 21 students who performed within the 712 to 724 range. For mathematics, we have 91 students who performed within the 712 to 724 range, and within that group alone, 26 of those students scored either a 724 or 723. Here is that same data for High School East, for both ELA and mathematics. For ELA, there were 11 students who performed within the 712 to 724 range, and for math, 43 students performed within that 712 to 724 range, with 14 either scoring 723 or 724. And that same bubble data for High School West. 10 students fell into the 712 to 724 category for English language arts, while 48 students fell into that range for mathematics. 12 of those students scoring either a 723 or 724. So after combing through the data, we wanted to highlight a few notable achievements. For ELA, the district average for students who are graduation ready is above the state average. Also, our students who are identified as economically disadvantaged and graduation ready is above the state average for ELA and is within 10% of the state average for mathematics. I also want to note that for ELA, our ELLs who are graduation ready increased by 44%. And moving into the final portion of tonight's presentation, we will provide you with ways we are using this data to provide interventions to our students. Here you can find a few intervention strategies that will be in place for the 24-25 school year for English language arts. We will use the NJ GPA data to isolate specific standards that our students did not perform well on and that we need to improve upon. We will use our district instructional coaches to meet with PLC. Every year somebody asks me this question. So professional learning community groups and individual teachers to provide strategies for instruction. The Office of Research and Assessment will also support schools with data analysis and standards articulation. An example of this are data summits, which will begin early in the school year, specifically at the high schools. And for mathematics, we are continuing professional development presented as they have in the past by the folks at Great Minds for both our teachers as well as our administration. Similarly to what I mentioned for ELA, we will also use targeted interventions based upon this data for our students. We will also be working with staff to utilize the lesson vernacular or language that is used within Eureka so that math teachers are speaking the same instructional language. And finally, the curriculum supervisors, math coaches will support the data analysis during meetings with teachers, as I had mentioned through ELA in professional learning communities. And they will also be implementing a multi-tiered system of supports, which we also sometimes refer to as MTSS. This will help us to identify specific needs and ongoing mathematics interventions for students in grades 9 through 11 that we identified based on using both in-house data as well as the NJGPA data that I have just shared with you. So I know that this was a mouthful and not as exciting as Dr. Mahan's presentation before me. However, thank you all. And are there any questions?
So thank you. So one of the questions that I asked when we got the presentation in our committee meeting was about the interventions, how they're differing this year from last year, because obviously, we saw some things, some categories of students, some cohorts going in a direction we don't want to see, right? So can you talk a little bit about the MTSS? Because, in our conversation, that's really kind of like a big change that's happening this year, right? Implemented throughout the district. And you mentioned it's going to be implemented for grades 9 through 11. I'm wondering about the 12th graders, because that's the cohort of these kids. So we know there are kids in that cohort who, we want to be, have struggled, right? They're struggling. So we want to make sure that those kids are ready when they leave here.
I'm going to pass the microphone to Dr. Morton.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Faith. Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. I think Faith specifically mentioned grades 9 through 11 as it related to this presentation, because this assessment encompasses grades 9 through 11 instruction for grades 9 to 11. However, NJTSS, as we call it, New Jersey Tiered System of Supports, as presented by Ms. Weathington a few meetings ago, will be implemented throughout the entire district. So every grade level. Essentially, what it does is it allows teachers and staff to have an understanding of the specific foundational needs of individualized students and to individualize an approach to help to meet those needs. So if you think about the school year, there's annual progress that a student may need to make on a given year. There's also catch-up growth or catch-up progress, not Heinz, but catching up for those who may be behind. It's important that we have systems of assessment and intervention that can meet the needs of the kids when we understand what those gaps are and what they need to do in order to catch up. So that's exactly what that system does. It looks at the child comprehensively, any type of barrier to learning, but specifically the academic needs that children have. So you have collective of professionals across school that meet ongoing, identify targeted needs of the kids, develop action plans for them, implement them throughout the course of a cycle, then reflect on the process and continue that process moving forward. The reason we included data about bubble kids is because this process allows us to identify those kids at the outset of the year and to provide support and target and support and target, support and target. So when the children are going into the assessment, they'll have had systems of intervention and support that will prepare them and make them ready. Ms. Stafford, if you can mention just a few more things about 12th graders and how we segue that forward for these children who aren't graduation ready at this present time.
Going to learn how to use the microphone for the first time. Did I do it? Yeah. Okay. Good evening. So wanted to talk a little bit. So we know that there's multiple pathways for our seniors to meet their graduation requirement. And one of them is portfolio. And when we start to dig into the data, a large population of these students who are seen as not graduation ready on NJGPA end up making that graduation requirement through any of this tests that are acceptable, right? So SAT, PSAT, NJGPA, they have an opportunity to sit again for a makeup session in the fall. But in addition to that is the portfolio. And one of the things to consider with portfolio is these students are in a seminar math class as seniors. It could take them all year to complete their portfolio assessment because they're really spending time focusing on the skills that the NJGPA assessed and that the state has deemed really what they need to walk away with in understanding math concepts. So in doing this, they have 8 different constructed response tests that they must complete that will focus on the areas of numbers and quantity, functions, algebra, geometry, and statistics and probability. And in doing that, they have to demonstrate that they know exactly what to do with this mathematical content in order to complete a constructed response test and task in order to meet that graduation requirement. And they do this, they have instruction, they're relearning things, and the constructed response is a multi-tiered prompt. So it's a question that continually builds and adds the mathematical thinking, the additional mathematical opportunities. So it's not a straight algebra response. They have to do numbers and quantity with it. They have to add geometry to it based on the way it's built. So this isn't kind of a one and done where in junior year, you demonstrated that mathematically you haven't met that cut score of 725. There's a whole other opportunity for instruction through the portfolio process. And in many cases, our students are also in an additional math class. So they're continuing with their math education, as well as really honing in and fine tuning this specific skill set that this particular assessment is requiring of them in their senior year.
Yeah, and just one additional note as well. So NJGPA allows our students to demonstrate graduation readiness as it relates to the criteria for all high school students that they meet the standardized testing requirement, right? So this NJGPA is the first opportunity for them to do that. There's other opportunities that they have as well. Ms. Stafford mentioned PSAT, ACT, SAT, in the portfolio assessment as well. So if you were to look at our data for the past few years, by June, 100% of our students every year that this criterion has been in effect has actually met the graduation readiness requirement, 100%. We have never had a student not graduate from one of our high schools due to not meeting the graduation readiness benchmark.
Thank you. It's very helpful. What is the notification process for these students and or their families? In terms of, where they landed, the ones who are not meeting the standard and haven't demonstrated that in other ways. And are there any supports that are also just or information provided specifically to the parents and the families, just as they, I realize that, most parents of 12th graders are not super involved with their kids' academics. As a parent of 2 of them right now. But nonetheless, I think parents want to know, a lot of parents do want to know and are interested. So, and obviously the students need to know. So what's the outreach on that?
So a letter does go out when all the individual school reports are uploaded into Genesis. All parents are notified that that school report is available. And in the letter, it indicates that there will be, for students who didn't meet that cut score, there will be an opportunity to do a makeup assessment in the fall of the NJGPA. And prior to that, that there would be preparation class that they would be placed in order to help support that testing, and then to help them through the entire process to make sure that they are able to meet this mandatory graduation requirement. So, and it kind of outlines for them what all of those steps would be if they were going portfolio, the other assessments that they're eligible to take as well after they take that NJGPA again in the fall.
And if I could just add, we actually take an extra step to ensure that our parents who possibly have a child who is not considered graduation ready, one of the ways that we also notify them is we do send letters, but then Mark is very kind and helps me within Genesis for there to be an extra alert in which the parents must check a box in order for their child to log into Genesis, because we want to make sure that parents are reading the letter. Oftentimes I have many high schoolers myself and I just skim through and quickly move on, but it is very important that we send that specific notification to parents, making them aware that their child is sitting again for the assessment in the fall. And here are, if your child is to not pass the assessment again, here are the other menu of competency tests that they could possibly use to meet their graduation assessment requirement. And then it also explains exactly what the portfolio is.
And the other part of that is the counselors are available throughout the summer. So if they want to contact the school directly and talk directly to a counselor, it may not be their child's direct counselor, but there is counseling staff available throughout the summer to help answer these questions and kind of alleviate any of the anxieties that letter may cause. I will tell you that I did have parents reach out to me as a result of that, got them that information, and then they were in touch with the building level counseling staff as well.
So those scores have already been uploaded into Genesis. We are required within 30 days of receiving the physical scores in district to upload them and provide the parents with that informative letter. So we received the scores in district June 13th. By July 13th, they were already uploaded to Genesis. And here we are meeting in August because we are required to then provide the public with all the data within 60 days.
Thank you. Mr. Graham.
Thank you. So I had a number of observations and questions. I'll try to limit them for now, but they kind of center around where are students doing well, where do they need additional supports, and do we know why? Right. So in no particular order, one of the areas of concern I saw last year was English language learners were performing much lower than their peers. I think it was a smaller cohort, but it was still obviously an area of concern. We saw huge improvement this year. Do we know what accounts for that? And can we keep doing that?
So again, it's a different cohort of students. So that would really be comparing apples to oranges. So I can't speak specifically to that, but like yourself, I am also very proud of the success of our ELLs on the assessment this year. I mean, they really performed very well.
And those ELL teachers do participate in those data summits now so that they have an opportunity to look at that data and they're able to kind of narrow in as they're supporting the L population in their regular ELA class as well as their ELL support course. So there's that constant back and forth with the information between the English teacher and the L support teacher and helping to help our L population acquire language skills and feel comfortable. I mean, it's very intimidating to take these tests, right? For any student. So we make sure that those teachers understand what that assessment looks like so they have an opportunity to work with their students to help them alleviate some of the concerns that the standardized test may cause.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And I'll do one more question before we move on. But one of the areas of concern that I think stood out to a lot of folks is math proficiency at High School West. There was a decline there. But something I noticed, and I'm glad you spent some time on it, is just the number of students that are on the bubble there. We look like a drop of about 9% being proficient, but we see 30% are on that bubble. That's a lot of kids. Do we know what that looked like last year? Did we do a bubble analysis last year? Do we know how it compares?
We actually did not. This is the first year that we have completed that. And we absolutely can do that though, just to see the comparison between the two. But when we started combing the data and looking into it further, Dr. Morton brought up a great point of just casually one day said, how many students do you think are actually on the bubble? When we started looking at it, it was just vast amounts of students, not only within, the 711 to 724 range, but even that 723 to 724 range. It's a great amount of students that fall into that category.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Yeah, that was because that was something I thought was interesting. It's concerning to see the drop in the number of students that are proficient, but knowing that we could put the right interventions in to help as many as 30% get to be where they need to be proficient is very promising. All right, well, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
So following up primarily on Mrs. Stern's question about communications to parents, the interventions that you have in place, you've identified really those are levers that we can use, or you use, really to affect students and improve outcomes once they're in school, right? That's what they're there for. I'm wondering, aside from simply communicating with parents of students who aren't quite there yet, are there any other opportunities that that administration or staff have to assist parents in any other ways, more than just the heads up that there's a problem? And I'm asking that really because I've always been concerned about, there are cohorts of students, whether it's culturally, economically, that maybe don't take these tests as seriously as others. And that because of that, the scores that they achieve probably don't reflect the ability that those students have. So I'm just wondering, aside from, again, just the heads up, and the reminders and the importance of that, so that the parents can begin to take more of an active role. I mean, some won't, right? What else do we do? What else can we do to engage more parents, especially parents in those communities and those cohorts, that can have that much more of an impact on their families, on the kids, even before they come in, so they can truly be partners with the staff in their children's education?
Mr. Mayor, that's actually a great question. So NJTSS process, when the process works properly, again, it's proactive, it's from the outset, and it allows information to be known and shared, and then it allows for collaboration. So parents are engaged in that process from the outset, before any assessments are taken or anything else, when what we call pre-assessments are done. So once those results come in, the staff members would work with, or teams would work with parents to bring them in, to make them a part of that process and establishing the action plan for their children. So what that looks like is, in school, here are the interventions that are taking place, and here are the instructional strategies being utilized. Our teachers do a great job in also providing parents with additional resources at home to say, here are books that you can focus on. Here are some strategies that you can utilize at home to support what we're doing in school. So when our process is at full fidelity and it's working well, you'll see that across the board at every level. Last year, our goal was to assess our readiness for NJTSS. This year, our goal is implementation of NJTSS across the board at every school in the district. So you can expect to see that this year.
And if I could add one other thing, the curriculum office, we've already started talking about some of those math nights, so parents understand what our math curriculum looks like, that scope and sequence, and opportunities that they can also support their children at home.
Mrs. Gallagher.
So kind of looking at West math scores and just kind of math scores in general through the district, like obviously these scores and some of the other standardized tests, we kind of lag in math. And I'm curious if you guys have ever done any kind of like a root cause as to like, if there, I know we've changed curriculums over the years. I know COVID has impacted a lot of things. And I know that this test hasn't been, the NJGPA and I guess some of the other ones haven't necessarily been long-term testing to kind of see long-term changes within the district, but it just always feels like math is something that we're like, that kind of has low, like our scores are kind of lagging in math. And I'm just curious if you, I don't even know what my question is exactly, but right.
Yeah, the question is a great question. I clearly understand it. So COVID didn't do any favors. The pandemic lockdown didn't do any favors to children mathematically. If you study what the national data says, National Assessment of Educational Progress, NAEP assessment that's given to kids nationally, you see there's a major dip in mathematics outcomes for grades 3 to 12 students across the entire country. It's a almost crisis type. If you look at mathematics results across the state, you see a similar reflection. If you look at our mathematics results here within the district, it's no different. So I would So we're digging out of the pandemic still quite a bit from that. I think, it's going to take a focused, intentional, concerted effort from, all involved for us to engage students in making that catch-up progress, as we talked about. So it's annual progress and it's catch-up progress. We're going to have to be very focused and ensure that this tiered system of supports that we are mentioning here is implemented with fidelity. So critically important.
Mrs. Winters.
So I was going to talk about this in the CNI report because we had a preview of this presentation in CNI, but we grappled with the exact questions that you're asking, Ms. Gallagher. And one of the things that we came to understand among the committee is that this particular cohort of kids, as we tried to understand who are these 11th graders, they would have been the ones taking Algebra 1 and geometry during the pandemic. That's this cohort that's being tested. So I think that is a big piece of why you're seeing what you're seeing. Ms. Stern brought that out, and I wish Dr. Rude were here because he really spoke a lot about that during the committee meeting. But as we try to understand, because as Ms. Holgram said, like it, and Dr. Rude says this every year, it's when you want to look at trajectories over time, but also it's different cohorts of students, right? So it's really hard to compare, like last year's to this year's, and we only have 2 data points right now. But what I'm hopeful is that as we move away from COVID and also as we implement Eureka Algebra, because this cohort of kids, they weren't doing Eureka squared algebra. That's coming as the years go on, that we're going to see that change makes a difference in this because they're only testing Algebra 1 and geometry here. So again, like it doesn't completely explain it, but just to acknowledge that you're completely right and to give you a little bit of what the committee, when the committee discussed it, that was one of the things that we talked about.
Solomon, would you like to say something?
Question. Just looking at the comparisons, like with race and ethnicity, just noticing that there's like a huge achievement gap, it seems to me, like with Black and African American students and Hispanic or Latino students. So why do these students tend to fall behind if there's any if there's any clear reason? And like when do these signs of achievement gap like first appear? And does it have to do with maybe the tracking, like the educational paths certain students are put on? Like I was just, because it's very apparent, especially in math, but like also in English. So I was just wondering.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's the $1 million question as well. That has confounded educators for decades at this point. I can tell you, having done a tremendous amount of research on the opportunity gaps that exist between various demographic groups, it surfaces as early as kindergarten. The gap is evident in kindergarten, and what happens is that continually and progressively as the students move up in grade level, it widens, unless there are intentional efforts that are focused on annual progress and catch-up progress. So for us, that's why preschool is important for us, because the gaps exist in terms of language, in terms of vocabulary, in terms of exposure to experiences and opportunities, general knowledge about the world. When those are limited, children are unable to make the connections that allow them to foster additional and new learning and things along those lines. So it's a big question. So I can't give you a definitive answer as to what we do about it, but I can tell you that we are aware of it. We acknowledge that these gaps exist within the district, and we're focused on aligning with the research to try things that will help to close those gaps. And NJTSS is a primary one.
Dr. Morton, just from a board member's perspective, having kind of gone through some of the stuff this year, just to share some. So there's a few things that right off the bat jump out at me. So we're trying to stop early, right? Started early, right? So preschool, right? And I don't know if you picked up on it necessarily in the presentation, but we have there's extra effort that we put to families who qualify due to the financial situation, and there's overlap sometimes as well as being part of other groups, right? For them to qualify to be prioritized for preschool. And not only do they get, publicly funded preschool, but they also get extra services in being in that program that help the families beyond just that one child, but will help the entire family make sure they're getting other resources. So when you start that early at age 3 and you capture those families and those kids, it makes a huge difference. It's part of why this board and this administration has pushed so hard, despite all the challenges, has pushed so hard to implement the publicly funded preschool, because it's just that important. The other thing is, and it was in our July CNI meeting, I think that was an hour and a half. I'm trying to remember back, a curriculum instruction meeting. There are new curriculums that are being rolled out in English specifically and in math. The English ones actually incorporate a lot of subjects. Dr. Morton was just talking about this kind of idea of like access to information beyond just, learning how to read or learning the phonics. It's also about the curriculum includes information that has like history involved in it, or science or math. It's part of the general curriculum that our younger students are learning. So they may have been previously, their families may not have been part of our educational system previously, or if they may have, gone to school somewhere else. We meet a lot of families that grew up in other areas that had very different educational experiences from Cherry Hill. But those same students, even though their families may not have had those opportunities or that information, those students are learning them as part of their everyday learning, part of their curriculum, all kinds of different information. And that prepares them more kind of broadly and holistically as learners. So that helps them. So hopefully I got that right. Hopefully, Mrs. Staffen, did I do that right? Did I get it from the meeting?
You got it. Thank you.
So just to kind of, there are so many aspects. And then the last piece, which I'll just keep coming back to, is this multi-tiered system of support. That's the best practice. And there are 3 tiers. Am I right? 3 main tiers. And the middle tier is probably an area that some of these students, like they're in that bubble. And so if we're capturing that group, because we now have an intervention, they're not our students who need the most help, and they're not our students who need no help. They're kind of in the middle. That captures them throughout. So like, I do think that like, when you want to kind of walk it, like actually one of my feedback in the meeting, in our committee meeting, was, okay, that's great. We're doing preschool. We know we're doing preschool. We know we're doing third grade, reading on grade level by third grade. We know we have all these benchmarks, but what about these 12th graders, but you're talking about also the very important bigger question, which is specifically these groups, which we've been talking about for a long time. So I'm excited that we got a lot of approaches. Does that help?
Yeah, it definitely helps. Thank you for like taking it seriously, especially, I don't know, just as taking this test like a few months ago, actually. It wasn't that recent. I took this just to, I don't know, just to see these communities kind of falter or like not reach the same standards, definitely personal to me. So yeah, but thank you for the response.
2 years ago, we met with Latinx families because we wanted to start the process of understanding where we falling off with those families. And, I sat with, a mother and her teenage daughter. The mother was not an English language speaker. Her daughter was translating for her. Her daughter talked to us about teaching her younger siblings when they moved into Cherry Hill, because the school district they came to, they did not have the same type of education, and her not only learning in elementary school, but teaching her younger siblings, because her mother couldn't help them with English, right, and their homework. So, we know we have families from all areas in Cherry Hill, and we want to make sure we're always providing all of our students with, the excellent education that people move here for. So, and that's, that family, that mother was very clear. That's why she moved here, for excellent education for her kids. And that's what her kids are getting. So it's nice when you see that be successful. Mrs. Trevane.
I had 2 questions, but I forgot what the one was. But the other thing, the one that I do remember, and I think it's also important to note that it's not just the demographics of race that have consistently low scores here. I think economically disadvantaged English learners and also students with IEPs are clearly trending downward from all students. I'm wondering if you're able to compile this data to show overlap in a lot of those categories, because my thoughts are maybe it's not necessarily just one type of one very narrow demographic or type of student, that how many of them fall in multiple of these categories, that maybe the support isn't necessarily from one area. Maybe it's parents don't understand the very specific needs of their students. I'm just wondering if there's a way to actually look at data like that.
Yes, absolutely. So when we think about demographic groups, we don't think specifically about racial and ethnicity. Like so we're looking at things, gender and mathematics and science courses. You know, the things who takes the higher level AP level, you know, science and mathematics courses. Typically, there's a gender differentiation that you see. So we're looking at all different types of demographic configurations. Typically, for us, economic disadvantage is a huge indicator in our data across many lines. So that's absolutely a group that's validated, that's considered in this as well. Yes, and so looking at the data comprehensively and holistically is important. And this is why an effective, high quality data dashboard is so important, because it allows us to quickly manipulate data, and the data tells us a story. And hopefully we can get to a point where we're able to identify root causes, as Ms. Gallagher suggested. That's the intention: identify the root causes, make determinations about what those root causes are, and now we can put some systems of support in place to do something about it. So.
Other questions or comments or? Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Would you like me to turn this off? Would you like me to turn this off or keep it on?
That's Mr. Plavinsky's area, not mine. Okay, so great presentations. Thank you so much. No administrative reports. And we move on to correspondence. And Dr. Morton, I understand you would like to kick us off with correspondence.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I want to just take an opportunity to share the 10 candidates who have applied for the vacant board seats that will be available as part of the November 5th election. We want to take an opportunity. If you're in the room, you can feel free to stand if you choose. You can raise your hand if you'd like to, but we definitely want to acknowledge your presence and thank you for your interest in serving the community. Just going down the list. Actually, if you're online as well, you can raise your hand online also. Going down the list: Omar Alkalili, David Berkovich, Kirk Braddock, Norris Chowdhury, Dean Drizzen, Ava Friedel, Samia Mian, Quatzia Diaz, Bridget Palmer, and Harvey Vasquez. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good luck to you all. That's all. And the folks who are not in the room, good luck to them as well. And I would just mention, there were no hands online. I was looking, but no hands were raised online. So, okay. Other board members have correspondence. Okay, Mr. Mayor, who's it going to be?
Either one or I lost, I'm not sure. So I did have a chance, along with Mrs. Winters, to attend the this month's LMC Steering Committee meeting. Again, another very productive meeting of the LMC leaders in the district. This one was more than just talking about particular new issues that are coming up and coordinating. We had two guests speak to the LMC this past week. They were Mike Ritzietz and Amanda Adams. They're both with NJEA, and specifically they were there to talk about a partnership that they are proposing with the district with their NJ Access partnership. Essentially what that is relatively intensive consulting partnership where NGAA would send in 3 consultants. They would work building based, starting with the middle schools for a period of between 3 and 5 years. Most of the engagements are 5-year engagements. They are on site between 6 and 8 times a year during 6 and 8 months, a little heavier during the initial phases, and then a little less time after that. The focus of the work is professional development, teacher wellness, and also helping teachers understand the importance and the effects of trauma, not just trauma for teachers, but also for students, specifically ACEs, which are adverse childhood experiences, and how those experiences affect learning outcomes for students. So one of the things that they do, one of the many things that they do, is work with staffs to help them understand how they can better appreciate and understand those, and how they can implement tools and programs to make them more resilient, better teachers in the classroom, but also identify issues with some of their students that maybe otherwise wouldn't be identified. They are doing this work statewide, partly because they recognize that behavioral issues are up statewide. And one of the things that they want to do is to provide staffs throughout the state with the tools and experience and in order to try and counteract that. When they were first was proposed that maybe they would work with Cherry Hill, I wrote down a couple of the comments specifically that Mrs. Adams mentioned. She said specifically that they're very excited to work with Cherry Hill because of the reputation that Cherry Hill teaching staff has as professionals and teacher leaders throughout the state. And specifically that the Cherry Hill district is a district that they want to work in. They would love to work with. So really very positive. They were also made it, try and make it clear that while it is important work and it's a lot of work, it is not work that takes time away from student-teacher interaction. All of the meetings are during regular school time, and they make it work with the various buildings. So it's not a heavy lift for the staff involved in order to participate. And also includes an element of programming and assistance to parents to help them understand the work that they're doing and how they can be partners with the staff and with the students. So we certainly look forward to learning more and understanding more of the specifics that they propose for Cherry Hill, but it's really very exciting. Along with that, because they have appreciated, and this is the NJEA appreciates how successful the LMC program is working here in Cherry Hill. They would like to use our program as a template and a hub to spread LMC and use the LMC dynamics throughout all of South Jersey, through other districts, and using us as the model. So we're going to have a kickoff meeting in a couple of weeks to understand, how that might work, how we can assist. And that speaks to how well this group is working together, and Dr. Morton for spearheading that. And, I know Mrs. Winters, she'll speak for herself, but I'm proud to be part of that and to assist in any way that we can. Dr. Birdie, if I missed any of those points with regard to NG Access, feel free to jump in. All right. I guess my notes were clearer to read than I thought they were. All right. Well, that's my correspondence. Mrs. Winters, feel free to fill in the gaps or make it more exciting.
I think you did great. That's it.
Okay.
We
And-
also discussed the calendar again.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh. Don't talk about the calendar.
I won't talk. It's like we don't talk about Bruno.
Right.
No, thank you for that summary, Mr. Mayor. Perfect.
Any other board members have correspondence? Mr. Greenbaum.
So kind of along those lines, this will be a much shorter correspondence item. But I joined Mr. Mayor and Mrs. Winters in first meeting of CHEA contract negotiations. So, we just had some basic introductions with board members, administration, CHEA representatives, and set some dates over the next few months to continue discussions. One passing comment that came up that I did want to share is one of the representatives shared that they've already seen the positive impact of the changes to the pay scale, which resulted in retention of several teachers that may have been looking elsewhere just because we weren't where we needed to be on that pay scale. So I'm counting on that being a good bargaining chip, but also, seeing that that was the right choice and that we're able to retain some good teachers. It's really nice to hear that feedback.
Thank you. Other board members have correspondence? Okay. We will move on to our work session. And sorry, I'm on the wrong screen. Let me get to the. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Mrs. Gallagher. I almost skipped over first public comment. Thank you. Thank you for the save. Okay. We're going to first public comment. This in case I just was testing to make sure we were all awake, right? Okay, there we go. There are 2 opportunities for public comment this evening. This is the first public comment session, and it is for board action items 18 through 21 only for the adults. If you are a student in the room and want to make a public comment or online, you get to talk about any topic in the school related to our schools. There will be a second public comment section for any topic related to our schools at the end of the meeting. If you are a student and you'd like to speak, please approach the podium. We always give students priority to speak first. If you are a student online and would like to speak, we encourage you to not just to raise your hand, but to also put an S after your name so we can identify you as a student. So when you speak, please identify the agenda item that you're clearly that you're speaking about. Clearly state your name and your municipality. And we alternate between speakers who are here in the room and those who are online. Each speaker is given a maximum of 3 minutes to speak, which will be reflected on the timer that will be on the screen. Public comment is the opportunity for members of the community to comment on matters relevant to the operations of Cherry Hill Public School District or within the authority of the Cherry Hill Board of Education. The board welcomes diverse opinions on relevant matters. Under established federal law governing reasonable restrictions on speech in public forums, statements which demean individual community members or groups or which are irrelevant to the operations of the school district or are repetitive will not be permitted. Community members who would like to present information not relevant to the school district are always welcome to communicate directly to the district superintendent, board president, and all board members via email or other alternative means. So we start in the room. You don't see anybody at the podium. Oh, we have someone at the podium. Okay. So I think you know the drill.
And is this on?
I'm sorry, could you just, there we go. Yeah, it's on.
We're good. And Einhorn, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Just want to congratulate Barbara Wilson 20.2 on her deferred retirement. I've known her for many, many years, and it's well deserved. And I hope she has a lot more fun when it occurs. Thank you.
Are you saying it's not fun to work here? Okay. Okay, more fun to be retired. All right, and then we go online, and there's one hand up online. It's a phone number that ends in 788. If you could please state your full name, your municipality, and the agenda item you're speaking on.
My name is Jeff Potowitz. It's 19.6, a resolution requested that the return of unexpected funding from capital fund to the capital reserve account in the amount of $4,719,000 as of June 30th, 2024. Please vote no. Is this capital fund really having to do with extra bond money? If so, why don't we use that money we're going to be paying off that $4.7 million for years. Why can't this fund used to pay off some extra principal of the bond early, or on the other end, just don't sell another $4.7 million. It's $363 million total. subtract the 4.7 million. On July 23rd, 2024, number 14.10, the school board authorized transfer of $12 million from the capital reserve fund. All right? And I said, well, gee, why don't you hold back $3 million? Well, now you're going to be adding another 4.7, which means the total addition in less than a month time to the capital reserve is $16.7 million. The other money, you could have held back $3 million, for any use of the general fund, but now everything's committed to the capital reserve fund, which means if there's any shortfall, it's going to have to come out of general fund, but not capital reserve. Why did you put the full 12 million in the switch full 12 million last time? It doesn't make any sense to me. So vote no on this. Just vote no. Use the money for something else. Just take it off of the top of the bond or something. Pay off the bond, part of the bond early. Meanwhile, you committed now 16 point something million additional to the capital reserve. 12 million should have been put in the first place. This just compounds it. Thank you very much. Vote no.
Okay, we go back to the room. If anyone would like to speak, please approach the podium. Please state your full name, your municipality, and the action item agenda you are speaking on.
Rick Short, Cherry Hill, 21.1 or 21.2. Don't always agree with the Yares family. I'm friends with them, but has Mrs. Yares audited or vented the calendar? Because every year, Miss Yares finds something wrong with the calendar. So the question is, has the calendar been vented yet? Thanks.
Okay, we go back to the line. And I see one hand up online, and it's Dr. Yonatan Yares. Please state your full name, municipality, and the action item you're speaking with. I guess it was funny. Action item you're speaking on.
Sure. Dr. Yoni Yaris, Cherry Hill. I'm talking about 20.1 first. I did some math, and I can't tell you that I am not a certified math teacher, but I'm deeply concerned that I think I see well over 10 teachers who have well experience from the Malberg ECC who have now left. As a fresh teacher myself, I can't tell you how important having teachers of experience around, and especially as the district is building out this program, to see this number of teachers leaving is disturbing. I also know that that definitely has dramatically impacted the special education students, which my child is one of them, due to this mass turnover. So I am very concerned about where that's going. And I think, Skimming, I am good to go. Thanks.
Okay, where's the double header? I don't see Mrs. Yaros. She's not on the line. Usually we get a double header. Maybe second public comment. Okay, back to the room. Anybody else like to speak? Please approach the podium. Okay, and we don't have anybody at the podium. We don't have anybody else online. So now we will close our first public comment. And now we will move on to our board work session. So going to ask Dr. Morton if you can please speak to the item 11, the approval of appointments.
Absolutely. So these items appear here. They were formerly assigned to an administrator who's retiring, Ms. LaCoya Weathington, and they're appearing on the agenda again due to her pending retirement, September 1st. So, yeah, right. There's nothing we can do about it, Mr. Green.
Okay, I'm sorry. I lost my board docs. Hold on one second, please. Did you lose yours too? Okay, good. So we're just, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We move on to our curriculum instruction. Mrs. Winters, can you give the report, please?
Surely. I am not going to talk too long about the NJGPA presentation that you all just received because we received the preview of that presentation in the CNI committee. Many of the same points that were raised by the full board were brought up by the committee. We talked about some of the wonderful things we saw. We also talked about the challenges, especially in math. As I mentioned before, we talked about this particular cohort of 11th graders and things that may have affected their scores. We talked about root causes and how if we take this cohort of children and look backwards in their academic career, where were there points that we could have had support? When do you first start to see this disparities? All the conversations we had in here. So it was a robust conversation. I want to thank the committee members for engaging with it. Dr. Root especially brought up, making sure that kids feel comfortable and confident with math, which he feels like is a key problem. That if you start to see kids who, between late elementary school and middle school, who are not confident in math, they say that math is hard or that they're not good at math, then that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So he really felt that we need to emphasize the importance of math for all of our students. I think having the math pathways in high school and giving children options of different math courses that may spark their interest may go a long way towards that. So that was the committee's discussion around NJGPA. We did have a policy on first reading that we received from PNL. It's policy 2200. It was in the current Strauss-Esme packet that PNL received. It is just an update. Basically, it takes out some old language with respect to Common Core, which is no longer a thing, and inserts the New Jersey Student Learning Standards, which are the current iteration of what we follow. So it's a pretty quick and painless swap there. We also talked about the fall plays for High School East and High School West. I will admit that I had several people text me following the committee meeting to ask me what the plays were. Apparently there's a big audience of people who sit around and wait for the play announcement to happen. So I will tell everybody right now that East is doing A Trip to the Moon and West is doing Rocky, a musical. So mark your calendars, get the popcorn. It's going to be really fun in the fall. And then we had a little bit of new business. Every year we have to approve the virtual and remote learning plan. I know nobody wants to think about it, but God forbid we ever need it, but we do have it. And the committee received copies of the plan to take a look at and approve. Do any other CNI members have anything to add? No? All right. And I'm pleased to say that I did hold the meeting to an hour for possibly the first time ever. So Ms. Staffen helped keep me honest on that one.
Thank you. Move on to Mr. Greenbaum. If you could please give the business and facilities report.
Thank you. So we have a lot of good stuff to share, so I'm going to be a little more verbose tonight. But the meeting started with representatives from Aramark coming out to discuss our food service, program requirements, nutrition standards. So I wanted to share some of the highlights. This is a discussion I've been waiting to have for a long time. I thought it was interesting. As a large corporation with tremendous purchasing power, meals and a la carte items have to meet USDA nutrition standards, and they're often different from what you would find on the supermarket shelf. We've had this discussion before. I think it was about Pop-Tarts last time. But, some of the examples given where the Doritos are different than what you'd have in the store. Doritos have reduced fat and whole grain. Boxed cereals have reduced sugar. Chocolate milk has reduced sugar. Even pizza uses low-fat mozzarella and whole grain dough. And it might sound strange to refer to these items as healthy options, but they meet USDA nutrition standards and are healthier than the versions you'd find in the supermarket. I still advocate for my kid to eat more whole foods and less things that come in donut or nugget form, but I can't always tell him what to get. He gets what he wants. We also talked about some near-term updates to USDA nutrition requirements for school lunch. In 2025, there will be additional limits on added sugar. In 2027, additional limits on added sodium. And something we talked about is there's no reason we can't comply with them ahead of time. Many offerings already do. There's a hallway conversation that Mrs. Tong had about certain cuisines and certain types of food, and the answer was there's too much sodium in that sauce. We can't necessarily do that. And it's good to hear just that reinforcement of focusing on healthier options where we can. Something that was near and dear to my heart was a little more in-depth discussion about the breakfast program nutritional requirements. I've heard from many families wanting healthier options available for breakfast. For some, it's a matter of convenience, just being able to send their kid and say, hey, pick something up before class. For others, it's something they rely on for nutrition, in particular families that qualify for free and reduced meals. I thought it was interesting to learn that only about 10% of our student body participates in the breakfast program. So for a smaller elementary school with 200 students, for example, we might only be looking at 20 kids getting breakfast, and they only have 5 to 7 minutes to grab it. So, it might not make sense to have an omelet station, for example, for 20 kids who have to figure out how to cook it and eat it in 7 minutes. But we did discuss a number of healthier options. One interesting statistic that came up, and it's certainly open to interpretation, what this means, but when they stop serving donuts with breakfast, there's a 60% drop in breakfast participation. So, it kind of left me wondering, are students going hungry because they don't like what's offered, or are they just not grabbing a sweet snack before class? I don't know if we know the answer to that, but it certainly was food for thought. But that being said, I definitely want to give a big thank you to the staff at Aramark who came out to share this helpful information with the board. I know I learned a lot about school nutrition, and I look forward to continuing this dialogue throughout the school year and continuing to encourage our kids to make healthy choices. From there, I'll move on to a brief discussion we had about capital projects balance cleanup. This is something we haven't done since 2018. Going into the pandemic, it was suggested we lower capital reserves a bit. As a result, we appropriated funds into a capital projects fund. And as we're using more fund balance in the budget, it's good to have a healthy capital reserve account. And the board will be voting on this in our BNF action agenda this evening, I believe 19.6. And then lastly, I wanted to give a brief construction update. We had no formal meeting this month with our contractors, but through different memos, the board received a number of construction updates I wanted to share. So the lessons learned from last summer have been implemented to make for a smoother process all around. All projects are on track to be completed to allow staff to return to the buildings on time in August. The Carusi abatement work for asbestos has been completed, and the staff have already been able to move back into the building. Bid opening is scheduled for August 22nd for the preschool expansion projects at Kilmer and Melberg, with expected completion about 18 months after that bid is accepted. APR construction work continues, with progress becoming much more visible. If you've driven by any of our elementary schools, most of them look like APRs now. And they're much bigger than I thought they would be, but it's very exciting to see they're really moving along. And then lastly, just kudos to the facilities and custodial staff and everybody else working hard preparing our buildings for the return of students in a few weeks. And I think that wraps it up. Are there any comments or questions from other committee members or other board members?
Mr. Greenbaum, if I may, I would
Yes.
like to provide some clarification.
Please.
On the capital reserve account.
Yes.
Based on one of the comments that was made during public comment. So what we are doing is we are cleaning up unexpended balances from capital projects that we into the capital reserve account. We can in fact use it to pay debt. We can use it for projects that aren't. And the reason, so that's part of the reason why we're doing this. This was a discussion that we had during budget time. As we see the use of our fund balance increasing, it increased significantly in the 24-25 budget. That's going to give us less opportunities to put money into the capital reserve account. So trying to be proactive. Right now, I feel that we should be moving, and we have the opportunity to do it. We should be moving the money back into the capital reserve account. We may need it for debt payments. We may need it for other things in the future. The resolution that was passed at the last the meeting in June with the $12 million does not mean that we have moved $12 million into the capital reserve account. It means that as we close our year out, we have the opportunity to do that if there is funding left over. And the reason we do that is because we try to control the best we can how much fund balance we're using. We don't want to create a situation where if we don't move that money into the capital reserve account, it creates sort of an undulating effect with fund balance. So if you had a lot of fund balance in one year and you put it into your budget, you may not have it available in the following year. So if you don't have the fund balance available and you get a $7 million cut in state aid, you have a double whammy effect there. So we're trying to be strategic and planning in how we use our reserve accounts to make as smooth of a road as we can moving forward. And that is our only intention in the resolution that we are presenting this evening.
Thank you very much for that clarification. And just to reiterate, the board didn't approve to transfer 12 million. It was up to 12 million, and that amount is still to be determined. And that's just part of our normal business rhythms with the budget, correct?
Yes, it's part of our annual closeout process.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to make that clear. It's not necessarily 12 million. It's just approving up to leave room as that amount gets determined. Okay, any other comments or questions before we move on? All right, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Mr. Grimm, I'm sorry, one more.
Sure.
With the in-depth presentation we got about the food program, part of that was also the discussion about like every other area of our district, working on communication. And I know Aramark said that they would like to bring, be able to come to like zone PTA meetings perhaps to really have a nice chance for a dialogue regarding the food program. And also I thought it was great. They had regional representatives who came in from out of town, you know, just to present at our meeting. They really put a lot of effort with a very robust presentation. So I thought, you know, kind of seeing that we're, they wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to really understand and also hear our questions and concerns. And, we have the opportunity to, to voice on behalf of the students and, the district, the families, what people are interested in terms of our food program. I know that board members talk about that, wanting to always improve wherever possible, the access to, higher quality options. So I was glad to get that.
Me too. Thank you.
We move on to the human resources report, which I am always very careful about giving because most of what we talk about is confidential. But I can say that in our last human resources committee meeting, we did talk about recruitment efforts and hiring and retention, and very excited to say that we are in a much better position in terms of hiring. We have many fewer vacancies than we've had in quite a couple, at least a couple of years that I know. We looked at the numbers a couple of years back. I think that, hard work of Mrs. Lieber and her department and, all the staff who are administrators who are involved with hiring have been working really, really hard and are very busy. Sometimes, hard to, respond to emails and such because they're working so hard to make sure they're hiring and getting people in place. So I'm excited for that. We talked about some updates of our job descriptions, which is part of our district goals. We talked about some policies that, we were asked to look at and will be specifically on suicide prevention training. And that will also go to, I believe, is it P&L, CNI? CNI, thank you. Okay. And I think that's basically all I can talk about. So anybody from our committee have any other? Okay, no, very good. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to policy and legislation. I don't know, is that Mrs. Winter's going to give the report? Okay.
I would love to. So I got to be Joel in P&L, which was very exciting for me.
I would just like to say not as funny as me, but you got to be
Nowhere near as funny as you. I do want to thank Mr. Greenbaum for at the last minute pinch hitting and coming to P&L, as well as Ms. Niaz. It was funny. Somebody was in the room and they said, "What committee is this?" Because it didn't look anything like P&L usually does. But thank you to everybody who came in. I was cursing Joel because it looked like it was a 300-page policy update that I had to get through while he was on the beach relaxing. But in good news, many of those policies were actually sent to the committees where the subject area expertise is for review. So while P&L went through them, not all of those policies are actually going to have to be coming through P&L, at least at first. They went to CNI, HR, all the different committees. So those committees will be discussing them. So we went through that. A lot of them were just updates and from Strauss Esme. And like I said, some of the substantive questions will go through the committees. The calendars did come back to haunt us, and I want to explain why, because I know everybody is as tired of the calendars as I am. It is because we needed to adjust the graduation date to June 20th. The reason for that is that Pennsylvania celebrates Juneteenth on a different day. So if we were to hold our graduation on the day we originally scheduled it, it would have been Juneteenth in Pennsylvania at the Leocore Center. We would have had to pay a large amount of money to the staff there. I believe it was time and a half. So that is something that we're obviously not interested in doing, trying to be good stewards of our funds. So instead, the district will celebrate Juneteenth on June 19th, and graduation will occur on June 20th, which will also be the last day of school. The updated version of that calendar is on the agenda tonight. So that is why we did that. And I'm hopeful that that is the last time we will see the 24-25 calendar. The last thing that we talked about was in old business. I raised the implementation of our brand new cell phone policy, student use of wireless communication devices, and how that rollout is going to look in September. Dr. Birdie and I had some conversations about how the board wants to ensure that the information given to families is both accurate and consistent among the schools, because I feel like that is what we were going for a lot with the cell phone policy, was to look at consistency among our schools, and also to make sure that as families and students adjust to the new cell phone policy, which, if you're keeping track, does go into effect with the new school year in September, that all families were well prepared and had accurate information going forward, so that everybody understood what the cell phone policy does and does not do. So that information is going to be rolled out both from the building principals and from the district as a whole, and that process has already begun. And P&L is going to be keeping an eye on that to see what that looks like and make sure that everybody is comfortable with the communications that go out. And so we all have an understanding of what that cell phone policy looks like, because I know it is a big change, especially for some of our high school students who have gotten used to having access to their phones all day long. This is going to be different, and different is always hard and challenging. I'm just going to throw it to Mr. Mayor for a minute to talk a little bit about the HIB work that P&L has been doing as well.
Sure. So with regard to that, we recognize that, as with every program, every process, there's opportunities for improvement, and some of those opportunities focus on communication. And we have made a point to take a look at the types of communications that do go out to families that are involved in the process, and take a hard look at those, make them more user friendly, make them more understandable, ensure that they're timely, all in just an effort to make it that much, to make it make sense, to coin a former board member's one of her favorite statements. And in that regard, we had an opportunity just briefly to meet with Mr. Green, and start attacking some of those letters and cleaning them up, and but doing so in a way that does not do any violence to the required statutory elements that have to be there. But there's generally a way to make the language a little easier to understand, and hopefully that families involved will appreciate that, and we'll make that work just a little bit easier for all of us on the board. That's a continuing effort. We fully anticipate and expect that those new communications will be ready to go before the school year.
Does anyone else have any other thoughts related to P&L, questions about P&L? Can I capture it, Mr. Greenbaum?
I think so. I'll add one comment just to reiterate, when families inevitably start asking, why is there a day off from school before the last day of school, which is only a half day? It was a decision made to save the district between $16,000 and $20,000 for a simple decision of just moving the graduation date. So I think that's all goodness, and that'll be the answer we give in June when people start asking again.
I did appreciate that you were there with me to have that conversation because I feel like as soon as you heard the financial impact, you said nope. It would made it an easy decision for us. It's always, I do think people will question why there's a Thursday off and then a Friday last day of school, but it just made sense financially. So that's what we're going to do. And everybody will have a happy graduation day. Any other P&L thoughts? No? All right. And that's it for P&L.
Great, thank you. And strategic planning, I think that's Mr. Greenbaum's going to pinch hit on that.
All right, I'm up again, and we had a lot of really great stuff discussed in strategic planning. So this will be a little verbose again, but as usual, I'll try to get through it quickly. We started with elementary school redistricting. We got a report out from a great first meeting of the Community Collaborative Committee, which consists of a diverse group of stakeholders across the district and community. We heard they were very engaged, asked good questions, brainstormed what priorities and some of the non-negotiables were. They're currently focused on elementary school redistricting, but this committee is expected to collaborate on other important district incentives as well, initiatives. There's also a meeting of the Redistricting Steering Committee, which consists of individuals from across the district representing all areas of the school district. And they discuss goals of elementary school redistricting using data-driven approach based on enrollment data and demographic projections. And they're starting to look at elementary school boundaries, building capacities, and realistically what problems we can and cannot solve through redistricting. Next, we looked at, we got a report out on the website redesign work. If you weren't aware, the district website is getting a complete overhaul. And this is working from the communications audit, using examples of effective websites from other districts and incorporating community feedback. The homepage is expected to be more graphic with less copy at the bottom, with the focus on displaying much better on mobile devices. Mr. Plavinsky is leading this effort, and this is expected to roll out in December over winter break. So looking forward to that and hopefully some great improvements with usability. Next, we had a report out on the strategic communication plan. These are following activities from our communication audit, and these are based on 6 strategies. Evolve from reactive to proactive communication, leverage existing communication assets, prioritize and enhance staff communication, standardize and strengthen building level communications with families, improve communication engagement with non-English speaking families, and maximize community partnerships. Action steps will be completed according to staggered deadlines between September 2024 and September 2025, beginning next month. And then lastly, we got a report on community relations plan, and this focuses on strategy number 6 of the strategic communication plan, which is maximizing community partnerships. This is another opportunity to work with the Community Collaborative Committee. And one of the recent examples where this has already come to fruition is the district is currently working with Cooper Hospital to develop opportunities for collaboration. And a big thank you to Mrs. Trefane for helping to facilitate this opportunity for some of our ROTC students at High School West. And this and other opportunities for career development and experiential learning are expected to expand in the future. And then lastly, a big thank you to all of the administration that came to the committee meeting to provide just report outs on some of the great work that they've been doing. So thank you very much for that. All right, any comments, questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. And we move on to our special action agenda. Mrs. Winters, can you please move the curriculum instruction agenda?
Certainly. The superintendent recommends that I move the following. 18.1, approval of attendance at conference and workshops for the 24-25 school year. Do I have a second? Ms. Stern, are there any questions about the CNI agenda this evening? Seeing no board member questions, Ms. Sugars, please open the voting.
Board members, you may cast your votes.
Should I say yes to yes to that?
we have a unanimous yes vote?
Okay, Mr. Greenbaum, can you please move the business and facilities agenda?
Thank you. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following. 19.1, approval of bill lists. 19.2, resolutions. 19.3, resolution for the award of bids. 19.4, resolution for the award of competitive contracts. 19.5, a resolution approving services agreement between the board and College Board to provide district professional development for AP workshops and training. 19.6, capital projects balances returned to capital reserve. And 19.7, resolution authorizing the use of contracts with approved national cooperative for vendors to provide goods and services. Do I have a second? Mrs. Stern, any questions? Okay, seeing none, Mrs. Sugars, please open the voting.
Board members, you may cast your votes. And we have a unanimous yes vote. Motion carries.
Okay, I will move the human resources agenda. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following: 20.1, termination of employment certificated; 20.2, termination of employment non-certificated; 20.3, appointments certificated; 20.4, appointments non-certificated; 20.5, assignment salary change certificated; 20.6, assignment salary change non-certificated; 20.7, other compensation certificated. Do I have a second? Mrs. Winters, are there any questions from board members before we vote? Okay, Mrs. Sugars, can you please call the vote?
Board members, you may cast your votes.
Mrs. Sugars, I need to abstain from 20.1 to avoid a conflict of interest.
Okay, other than Ms. Stern's abstention on 20.1, we have a unanimous yes vote. Motion carries.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, can you please move the policy and legislation? Oh, I'm sorry.
I can.
Wait,
but
I'm
it's
sorry. Before
Probably
we,
more improved.
before we do that, I apologize. Dr. Morton wants to say a few words.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. I just want to take an opportunity to bring to everyone's attention and recognize the fact that this evening, the board just approved the recommendation for Mrs. Heather Esposito to be appointed as the new assistant principal at Cherry Hill High School West, replacing Miss Roscoff, who has moved over to the district office. Ms. Esposito is an individual who I know very well. I've had the privilege and the pleasure of working very closely with her for a number of years. Her passion for her students, her passion for learning, her passion for learning innovative or identifying innovative and new ways for educating our kids is truly, truly remarkable and inspiring. It's been an honor for me to work with her for over 10 years now, right? Over 10 years, and to see her progress throughout her career. So I'm so proud and happy to introduce Heather just to share a few words.
Evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Dr. Morton. I am excited and honored to be appointed tonight. I am happy to be returning to the place that was my second home for 20 years, where I built relationships with students, staff, and the community, and dedicated myself to advancing student voice and achievement. In the past 4 years, working as the district instructional technology coach, it allowed me to partner with educators and students across our district to foster innovative teaching and learning practices and meaningful technology integration. These experiences have given me a deep understanding of our schools and the unique challenges and opportunities we face. As I step into this new role, I'm excited to bring my passion and experience to the table. This district has given me so many wonderful opportunities as an educator, and now I look forward to giving back in service and leadership to our students, staff, and families. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mrs. Esposito. And the other thing just wanted to mention before we move on is just a very big thank you to Barbara Wilson, who is moving on to deferred retirement. She's our public information officer. She is the voice that all of us, our kids are excited to hear, because she is the voice that we hear when schools are closed for inclement weather. And, you know, behind the scenes, she's our social media guru, and, you know, just does a lot of our media, heads up all our media stuff. So she'll be sorely missed, and wish her best wishes on her next endeavor. All right. And with that, we move on to the P&L agenda.
And with that, I will pass the baton over to Mrs. Winters to move the agenda, since she was kind enough to take my seat last week.
Thank you. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following: 21.1, approval of waiver of policy 5111.2, and 21.2, approval of revised 2024-2025 school calendar. Do I have a second? Mr. Mayor, are there any questions about the P&L agenda? Has everyone counted all the days on the calendar? We're good. Ms. Sugars, please open the voting.
Board members, you may cast your votes. If unanimous yes vote, the motion carries.
Okay, we don't have any more agenda items to vote on in strategic planning, so we'll move on to new business. Do any board members have new business? Okay, we'll move on to old business done. Do any board members have old business? Okay, we move on to second public comment. This is the second public comment period. Anyone who would like to speak on any items related to our school district, the Board of Education, this is your opportunity to speak. If you'd like to speak, please approach the podium, or you may raise your hand to speak online. If we have students who would like to speak, we ask that you please put an S after your name if you're online, or if you're in the room and you'd like to speak. You always have the opportunity to speak first. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the community to comment on matters relevant to the operations of Cherry Hill Public School District or within the authority of the Cherry Hill Board of Education. The board welcomes diverse opinions on matters relevant to the district. Under established federal law governing reasonable restrictions on speech in public forums, statements which demean individual community members or groups, or which are irrelevant to the operations of the school district or are repetitive, will not be permitted. Community members who would like to present information not relevant to the school district are always welcome to communicate directly to the district superintendent, board president, and all board members via email or other alternative means. We'll start in the room. You will have 3 minutes. Whoever would like to start, you may approach the podium first, and we will ask you to state your full name and your municipality as soon as the timer goes up.
Harvey Vasquez, Cherry Hill. First of all, good evening to everybody. I just wanted to touch up on 16.1 strategic planning on elementary redistricting. In your notes, it was discussed that the non-negotiable topics need to be more defined. If the rest of the community are like me with access to bare minimum information, I'm sure the majority of us have no idea what those non-negotiable topics are. I understand there's a collaborative community working together on these details, but that group are the few compared to the many. Many of your stakeholders have requested a copy of the full GRIP report. And what we have been provided in return has been a presentation that was prepared by the administration, highlighting some areas of the report. I've had the opportunity to review the 2020 GRIP report, and in comparison to that report, there's much to be desired in your presentation. Which, by the way, this presentation, as I understand, is the same information that has been provided to the collaborative community, which job is to brainstorm this topic of redistricting with the administration. Not sure how the administration can expect honest dialogue with your stakeholders when the full picture is not provided. I asked that the distinguished members of this board worked with the administration in making the full report public for those of us trying to understand the issues with redistricting. It's only fair that this be provided without the need of an OPA request. As we all know, information is knowledge, knowledge that we all are entitled to as stakeholders. Thank you.
Okay, we go online. And the name online is Michael, I hope I get the pronunciation right, Fekete. I hope I said it right. If you could please state when the timer goes back to 3 minutes, your full name and your municipality.
President Stern, thank you. It's Michael Fekete. I'm a resident of Fox Hollow Woods and a lifelong resident of Cherry Hill. Since June of 2023, my wife and I have pretty much tried to reach out to anyone who will listen to us regarding the conditions of the athletic field, specifically the varsity baseball field at Cherry Hill East. More recently, I sent an email to you. I also sent another email to Dr. Morton, and I have sent multiple emails to the athletic director. I want to read those emails to the board this evening. My wife and I, Stephanie Zane, this was sent to Dr. Morton yesterday. My wife and I, Stephanie Zane, are residents of Fox Hollow Woods and Cherry Hill, a mere stone's throw from Cherry Hill East. In fact, I've been a resident of Cherry Hill all my life, having attended Clara Barton, Carusi, and Cherry Hill West, graduating in '94. Our daughter, Emily, graduated from East in June of '23, was a two-time state champion swimmer and a recognized All-American in swimmer. Currently, she's a Division I athlete in the SEC for South Carolina. Our son, Michael, is a rising sophomore at Cherry Hill East and was a varsity swimmer, winning freshman of the year, and varsity baseball player, winning second team all conference during his freshman year. We appreciate the importance of high school athletics and the opportunities same provide for our students. To that end, we also understand the need for top-notch facilities. Please note that while the email below was sent yesterday, it is a culmination of multiple conversations and emails that began in June 2023, when my wife first reached out to the athletic director. When my wife reached out in June 2023, it was to bring to the attention of the athletic director the fact that the entire field on the newly sodded field was completely dead and not being watered. My wife continued to email and verbal communications with the athletic director regarding the conditions. Despite assurances from the athletic director that corrective actions were being taken, ultimately nothing was done, and the playing conditions at the field this past season were deplorable at best and unsafe at worst. Dr. Birdie, who also has a son who is my son's age, was over at the fields. He can attest to the conditions that were there. I've sent photos to the AD. I've sent photos to Dr. Morton. I've sent photos to you. The responses that the minimal responses that we received from the AD, which completely are baffling, is that the grounds crew that is responsible for the condition of the fields does not report to him. I put it to the board. How can you have an athletic director who doesn't oversee the persons who are directly responsible for getting the fields into condition so that our students have a safe and place to play on? I thank you for your time this evening.
Okay. And we go back to the room. If anyone would like to speak, please approach the podium.
Ann Einhorn, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So I just want to go to, my first question is, can we get in the public an organizational chart for pre-K? Because I have lost count of the names and the number of positions that have now been associated with this program. I'm really confused. And that would also, in my eyes, include the off-site people and who the liaisons are to the district office from those sites. It's become very difficult to keep track of what's going on with employees. I would like to address, do we still have a Spanish teacher shortage? Or if we don't, that's fine. But I've come to understand on the unfortunately grapevine of Cherry Hill that we may be reduced to doing remote learning. And I would be curious to see how far along you are with that. When it comes to strategic planning, there is community buzz. You may not see it on Facebook, but how exactly were the community collaborative committee members chosen? How were the district steering committee members chosen? And we're still going back to how the elementary redistricting committee people were chosen. It's my interpretation that some people feel neglected or slighted because number one, we don't know who's represented on these committees and are the schools that are most grossly affected currently on these committees. And I think it's only fair again that the public have an idea of how do you choose these committees, because there really wasn't a public ask of the board or the administration for these committees that I'm aware of. Salam, thank you. I hate mispronouncing names. You asked the most important question statement of the whole meeting, because as much as we talk about pre-K and, you know, we're giving them the foundation to be great learners by 12th grade, those 12th graders this year are the COVID kids that some of us have been asking, how are we supporting them? So thank you. The pre-K kids, if they stay here, will have 14 years in our system. Big advantage compared to those graduating seniors. And I would like to know that if we're supporting them, are we hitting the ground running September? Or do we have a month delay? We identify the kids, blah, blah, blah. Because if your reports are accurate, which I suspect that they are from the presenters, then they should be getting support from day one. Thank you.
Okay, we go back to the line and it's a phone number that ends with 788.
My name is Jeff Potowitz, and I live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. What I'm doing, this is about school funding, like I talk about a lot. I want you to read what the superintendent of the Toms River School District said or stated July 3rd, 2024. His name is Michael Sita. And read what he said. He's talking about Toms River. And I believe Toms River sued the state about what's happening with them. No, Toms River is paying in taxes only 70% of what the state says it needs to, local fair share. Whereas Cherry Hill, we're paying 118% in our tax dollars of what the state says we need to. SFRA district profile, you can look at the numbers yourself. All right. Now, that does not even include our $363 million bond, whose principal and interest will total approximately $500 million. That $363 million was our legal debt limit. That's the most the state would allow at the time, calculated by the state. We are literally being taxed to the max in Cherry Hill. Our community has already last year, without the new tax increase, providing maximum effort to our school district. That is, our community has been doing that already. From what Mr. Sita said, all right. He wanted to reiterate that in no uncertain terms that the state of New Jersey has knowingly created this problem for our district, that's Toms River, as well as their neighboring districts. They have done nothing short of legislative child abuse and neglect. The same thing has been going on for 25 to 30 years in Cherry Hill. The fight is with the DOE and the state of New Jersey, where decision makers have created these policies to harm our students, teachers, staff, and community. Exactly what's happening in Cherry Hill, and it's happened for 25 to 30 years. All right. Already we have local politics attempting to step in. All right, and cause divisiveness. Exactly what is happening in Cherry Hill. As we fight for funding, all my team members, including myself, will freeze our salaries and work under last year's contract and agreement. We're expanding administrators, but whatever. Okay, this is a superintendent, the way he talks, and he talked, believe me, stronger than I just said. If you read the whole thing or listen to him, all right, it's calling on their elected officials in the district and community and even county to help. We need leaderships like that, folks. That's you. We need you to say what he's saying about our community and talk to our.
It's your time is up. Thank you. We go back to the room. Please state your full name and your municipality when the timer goes up on the screen.
Rick Short, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I report tonight is a very sad night. I've lost all hope in Dr. Morton as a superintendent. I've lost all hope in Mr. Greenbaugh in charge of the bond. Ladies and gentlemen, May 2023, there was a letter sent to Dr. Morton from 12 other family members asking for basic security, basic safety. 4.5 years ago, I sent an email about interior hardening to Dr. Morton. He did nothing. He did nothing again. We have $300 million earmarked for money, and we're not ready for an active shooter in a school. I sent it 4.5 years ago, and you ignore it. We can't even do basic perimeter fencing. You ignore it. Mr. Mayor, what happened with our big PTA? Bus safety, bus, auto, bike safety. Nothing. You did nothing. You failed. What happened? We have a teacher saying, pray for healing, pray for healing, pray for healing. Doesn't anything sink in your head that you should care about the safety of our children? Now, the big thing. Let's talk about the big restorative justice scam. Yes, you guys play us like, race. I've said this before. This is America's greatest race baiting school in America. There's no one else like us. How do you do it? Dr. Morton said it right in the Sun article. He said, our teachers are always giving too much discipline to the people of color. What a bunch of baloney. What a bunch of baloney with like 7%. That's basically saying that all our teachers and staff are racist. You guys play the race card like you wouldn't believe it. And then on top of that, you play this race card. You want to change everyone's thinking to that we must accept privilege. We must accept that whites are privileged. You are using our teachers as teachers to teach our children that there is white privilege. There is privilege for Christians. There's privilege for all these different people. There's privilege for middle class. You guys are playing the race card on our teachers, and it has to stop. Finally, the restorative justice numbers that are going to come out are going to show that there's more violence. Your restorative justice is causing more violence.
Mr. Short, your time is up.
Thank you.
And while you are allotted free speech rights, I will say that I find your comments to be extremely divisive and not reflective of our students, our staff, or this community. You go back to the line. We have a name, Jack B. If you could please state your full name and your municipality. Jack B, you'll need to unmute if you'd like to speak.
How about now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, if I could get 15 seconds back, but good evening to everybody. I think you know August 1st was the implementation of Title IX. And
could you please state your full name?
Yeah, it's Jack Brangan,
and
Willowdale,
municipality?
Cherry Hill. August 1st was the implementation of Title IX. And my request is that you put out an explainer or an information document or put something up on the website on how this is going to be implemented in the school system. Because there are parts of it that are similar to 5756. However, 5756 is guidance where Title IX is mandatory. So this is something that the school system has to do. And in the prior version of Title IX, it had to do with discrimination based on sex, sex being boy, girl, male, female. And it talked about boys' locker rooms, girls' locker rooms, boys' sports, girls' sports, etc. But with the new Title IX that we're living under now in all of New Jersey, it's not just Cherry Hill. Sex has been expanded to mean sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. Not sure what expression means, pregnancy or related conditions. So what used to be the boys' room and the girls' room, I think you need to explain what it's going to be now, because this does affect bathrooms, locker rooms. I mean, even maybe the labeling, I don't even know. That's why I think we need an explainer. Sports teams, overnight accommodations for field trips, to Washington, DC, et cetera. Now there's no boys and girls. It's going to be based on gender identity. The staff is compelled to address an individual by their preferred pronouns. What is different now than the old Title IX is where a complaint in the old one could be lodged against a student. Now you can have actual charges, a claim against a student. So my point is there are some major changes here that's a little confusing how we're going to transition from the old Title IX to the new. And my request is if you could put out a document or something like that, would be great. Thank you.
Okay, we go back to the room. Please state your full name and municipality.
Kurt Braddock, Cherry Hill, Charleston, I think is.
I'm sorry, could you, go ahead.
Kurt Braddock, Cherry Hill, I think Charleston's the name of my neighborhood. People who have been here before might know me as the guy that runs out to get Wawa in the middle of meetings. Not tonight, I got it before I came. Tonight, I want to introduce myself as somebody running for the BOE this year. I'm a teacher and a researcher, have been for 15 years. Currently a professor at American University in DC, and rather than run on, I figure I guess give some brief positions that I have related to what I've heard at some of these meetings over the last year or so. Number one, and I've become very heartened, especially tonight, I'm a big believer in data-driven decisions and things that I've heard from, especially in relation to the preschool and things that I saw in relation to the NJ GPA. I really like what I see. I like what I've seen on social media and data driving the decision about mobile use and things like that. Second, I really believe in the need to protect kids' right to read what it is they wish. So I would want to bring that to the board. And third, I want to facilitate an environment safe and promising for all students of all types, all races, all cultures, backgrounds, LGBTQ status, neurotypicality, neurodivergence, everything. I think we need to take into account every possible category and make sure all those students feel safe at school. Very quickly, I want to give kudos to the preschool expansion, as I have a new baby and she'll be using it in 2 years, hopefully, unless I end up in the lottery. And this is a godsend because I need to grade papers sometimes. And more specifically, I want to talk about the NJ GPA results. I have a couple of thoughts on that. The data were great in relation to outcomes. It's clear that everything except maybe math at West is moving in the right direction. I wish Faith, I'm sorry, I forget her last name, was still here because I would ask about data in relation to process evaluation. What interventions are having the most effect? Where should we be putting our resources? Because it's cool to see that we're getting better, but it'd be great to see how or why we're getting better. Number two, something I would take issue with is that I believe she mentioned you can't compare cohorts year to year. I disagree. If you have a big enough sample size from one class to the other, you can assume those classes, assuming they're coming from the same school, have the same basic socioeconomic status and other kinds of issues across both cohorts. You can compare them and then you can identify what it is that's causing them to improve. And finally, I want to get at what Dr. Morton called the big question, and I think Ms. Gallagher, Ms. Sharfane, and Salam mentioned. I think everybody said this is the important question, but there are ways to look at these score differences and identify why these changes or why there are differences in certain categories. I won't get into the weeds of it, but there are things, if you could pass on to Faith, logistic regression, neural networks are ways to compare different groups to see what's working, what's not, when it works, when it doesn't, but we need data on students. So I would recommend to Faith and the board, try to collect data on students so you can do that analysis and identify why students succeed versus why they don't. If that's boring, I'm sorry, but that's the kind of thing I'm gonna run on, data. Thank you.
All right, we go back to the line and I do not see any hands on lines. We'll go back to the room. If anyone would like to speak, please approach the podium. Please state your full name and your municipality.
Good
When the
evening.
timer comes up.
Good evening, Matt Tanzer from Cherry Hill. I just wanted to commend the board on the recent policy regarding cell phone usage in your schools. I'm the founder of the South Jersey chapter of Wait Until 8th. It's an organization that advocates for waiting for your children to adopt the unlimited use smartphones that have been proliferating since 2010. And I'm sure you considered, and whenever you discuss this rule, the incredibly the tsunami of mental health problems. And I firmly believe that the access to social media with the attention fragmentation, bullying, the sort of thinning of relationships, and all of the other negative implications. It's clear to me, and the previous speaker referenced data. I think the data is there. It's been published in recent books. The Anxious Generation, which came out in March, Jonathan Haidt being the most recent one. I think that should be required reading for anybody that has parents of small kids. Myself, I have 3 under 9. And so maybe my one question, and I'm sort of maybe late to the game, is I think that a ban of cell phones throughout the entire school day instead of just within the instructional periods, and that's at least how I interpreted the rule, would have been maybe even preferable. And I have my brother-in-law teaches in a high school, and he talks about how there are zombies just walking from class to class in their phones. And to get rid of the access to these phones throughout the school day, maybe that's something the board can consider as you're evaluating the efficacy of the change. Just want to let you know that within the Wait Until 8th South Jersey chapter, it's very new. So if anyone's on the phone and is interested or in the room in partnering, we do have a goal to have pledges, and within Wait Until 8th, you can make a pledge that you're not going to give your kids these phones. When 10 families in a particular grade in a particular school sign up, it becomes public. And what you're doing is forming cohorts of like-minded families that will say, we're not going to kind of give into the pressure of getting my kid an iPhone or Android with unlimited internet and unlimited social media use. Our goal is to have an active pledge in every Cherry Hill and actually South Jersey elementary school class, every school, every class from kindergarten until 8th grade by the end of the year. So it's a very audacious goal. No idea the feasibility. It takes only 10 per grade. So we are very excited to partner with your PTAs and your other family members, other schools, administrators, bottoms up, grassroots, hopefully to get a movement so that it'll be okay for kids to wait until after 8th grade. Doesn't mean any phone, not against all technology, just this specific technology, which is ruining our kids' mental health. Thank you.
Okay. We go back to the line. I don't see any hands online, so we come back to the room. You could please state your full name and municipality when the timer goes up.
Good evening, David Berkovich, Cherry Hill. I would like to congratulate the fellow candidates in the room. I myself am running for board this year, and additionally, a ballot position was announced today. So congratulations on everybody who did not pull number 8 on the ballots. I'd like to briefly comment on some things the board discussed at this meeting. So first, I'd like to commend Ms. Winters and Mr. Greenbaum on moving the graduation day to save money. While $20,000 might not seem like a lot, I mean, teacher overtime, or just, I mean, it's a significant amount of money that can be used within the district. And I feel those types of decisions are critical for our school district. And with that said, the discussion regarding addressing the non-graduation ready 11th graders at West, there's a lot of discussion on the program NJ TSS. And it's certainly promising to providing some measures to early intervention and statistical analysis and small cohorts of kids in the different levels. It can all be great. I'm just cautioning the board that can also be a huge constraint and suck on the budget. And we're just going through, a tax increase for property owners. People are hurting. It wasn't a huge increase, but it hit people's pockets. And as we budget out for this coming school year and we look at programming like NJTSS, we should be mindful of the potential impact it can have on the budget and keep an eye on it. And with that, my comment. Thank you very much.
Okay, we go back to the line. I don't see any hands online, so we'll go back to the room. If anyone else would like to speak, please approach the podium. And when you do, please state your full name, your municipality, and wait for the time. There we go.
Okay, my name's Bridget Palmer, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I live in the Dellwood neighborhood. So as a few other people have noted tonight and was announced, I am running for a seat on the board. And I want to congratulate and thank the other candidates in the room for their willingness to stand up and put ourselves out there for what is ultimately a volunteer position, but is, I think, one of the most important positions in the community. I am a mom. I have two fantastic twins who are rising seventh graders at Carusi. And for that reason, this is personal for me. This is my family, and this is my kids' future. So they're really, when I think about what I want from the board and what I want my district to look like, really at the heart of what I want to see in the future is better communication, more effective communication. It's clear to me that all of us in the room tonight are aware of that. And I'll use the school district, the cell phone policy as a prime example of that, because I think it is a long overdue policy. I think it's a fantastic policy, definitely needed. But as a parent, the rollout was clunky, to say the best, or to say the least. The communication that I got from my school principal was, I thought, significantly different from what I ultimately saw come out from the district. And I guess the way that my school is implementing it is different from the way that I read the district policy. So, I think clearly it's something that you're all aware of. I would challenge the board to kind of keep working to improve, because in my mind, that is the number one greatest area for improvement. I will say I have seen a significant shift, and credit to Dr. Morton and the administration that he has in place. I think where the district has fallen short in the past is in acknowledging when there are shortcomings, when there is opportunity to improve. So again, I hope that will continue because we are all human and there is always room for improvement. Third, I hope the achievement gap and the opportunity gap that exists in our district is not something that we necessarily like to talk about, but I think the numbers that were presented tonight in graduation readiness show how far we have to go there. So, hopefully eventually I have the opportunity to help solve those problems or address those issues. But in the meantime, I thank all of you for the work that you do. I do challenge you to just keep going and continue to try and make this district the best that it can possibly be for all of our kids. I mean, we wouldn't be in this room if that wasn't the ultimate goal. So no matter what our backgrounds are, positions are, at the end of the day, I think we all have that shared goal. So thank you all.
Okay, we go back to the line and I don't see any hands up online. So we come back to the room if anyone else would like to speak. You could say your full name and municipality when you get to the mic.
Dr. Yoni Yaris, still Cherry Hill, this time in person, not running for the board. I inadvertently did not acknowledge Barbara Wilson earlier. She succeeded someone who also was a legend in her position, and I don't think anyone has ever seen a job change more, over her time period than she has, from the evolution of social media. I think when she started, we still had Channel 19 going on, and now that's long gone. People were like, "What's Channel 19?" Just to acknowledge that, it's definitely a challenging position, and definitely will be interesting as we evolve to see what that position evolves into. Public information officer is well beyond what it used to be, especially for a district of our scope. Based on what the presentation heard earlier, talking about summer communication from Malberg, that none has come out. I, however, have received 3 emails from Carusi and 2 emails from my principal over at Kilmer. There has been 0 communication from Malberg, and this has been a steady trend. Our other principals, who are all 12-month employees, have all sent out communication. Once again, Malberg remained a depth of communication. I also feel that the special education population has become a second-class citizen through the preschool expansion. There has been no town halls, no meetings held to bring the special education community together to talk about their concerns. We have seen the most loss of educators who were there for special education since this expansion took place and since the leadership change evolved at that school. The school has gone down tremendously. It has become toxic in there. As a parent, we've been in that school since we came back to Cherry Hill in 2019. And I now question if we were going to send our youngest there. It is very upsetting to where that school has gone to, and it's deeply concerning to me as a parent who have sent multiple children there, knowing that each child's experience will be different. Things evolve, things change. I will discount my daughter who was there for the pandemic, but I can tell you that the teacher she had did incredible for that, and we now lost her at the last meeting. And more we have lost these steadfast teachers who would be able to bring on and help integrate these new teachers and build community. I don't know if there's a community in that school left. Thank you very much.
Okay, there is a hand that raised online. It is Laura Pendergast. If you could kindly state your full name and municipality when the timer goes up.
Hi, this is Laura Pendergast, Cherry Hill. And I just wanted to call in to follow up on something that Dr. Farah Mahan had said in her presentation at the beginning, which I'm actually really excited about. One of the things that I heard her say was that there's going to be a focus at Malberg in increasing opportunities on a daily basis for students in self-contained classrooms to interact with gen ed students and their non-disabled peers. And I just want to say I cannot express enough enthusiasm for that idea. My son went to Malberg and was in self-contained a couple of years ago. And our experience at Malberg was phenomenal. It was very good. We had an amazing team. My son learned so much there and came so far. But the one thing that we had our IEP team meeting and we had a lot of back and forth about was inclusion. And it was that I wanted him to be able to interact with gen ed peers. And that at that time wasn't available. There wasn't a way to make that happen. And my team was pretty awesome. And we got creative and had some back and forth and figured it out and they made it happen, which was awesome. But not every parent understands how to do that or knows that they're able to have those kinds of conversations. And so the more that we can do to create opportunities for inclusion to happen naturally and be a part of the system, I think the better. The research on inclusion is very clear. It greatly benefits both kids with disabilities and their typically developing peers. Especially at the preschool level. The preschool level is the most important time to be utilizing inclusion because that is when the gap between kids with disabilities and their typically developing peers will be the smallest. So that's actually the easiest time to start inclusion and to allow kids to benefit from getting to know each other and have those friendships with each other. So I just want to applaud that effort and I'm very excited about it. And that's all I have to say. Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay, we go back to the room. If anyone else would like to speak, please approach the podium. And when the timer goes up, please state your full name and municipality.
Alana Yaris, she, her, Cherry Hill. I think we should institute having people state their pronouns during public comment so you can refer to them directly the way they would like to be referred to. That's all. Thank you.
You have 2 minutes and 43 seconds left if you want to use them. You don't? Okay. 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 I don't see any more hands online. I don't see anybody else at the podium. So we will close public comment. I will make a quick comment on cell phone policy on behalf of the board. I would say, it's another very exciting item that we've, are moving forward. It was the effort based on surveys of our community, our staff, our students, and family members. And from that survey, there were a lot of differing views and in a school district of almost 11,000 kids, that's what happens, and families. And from that, the decision was made that this is a starting point of our cell phone policy. This is where we're starting. Because there are a lot of differing views on all sides of the topic. But certainly I think, a lot of us up here and a lot of our administration and our teachers, I think in particular, are very, very happy that we're starting at least at this point. So we appreciate the community support. I think there's been a lot of positive reaction in the community. in general about the fact that we have a policy now and we're rolling it out. And there is a lot of media attention coming about cell phone policies with kids and schools. So pretty excited about that. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see what improvements we can make. And to be really clear for the record, the policy applies to phones, earbuds, right? Smartwatches, right? So wireless communication devices, right? It's a lot, covers a lot. So, I think we're excited to see where this goes. I'm sure I will yet again get railroaded at my own house by my own kids, but that's okay. All right, Dr. Morton, superintendent comments.
Yes, thank you very much. So yes, in reference to the cell phone policy, the intention was to respond to the data and to have an understanding of what our community saw fit and how to move forward. I can tell you from the data and the surveys that we conducted, 85% of the respondents felt something needed to be done, from the most stringent implementation of total bans to what we actually eventually landed on. I think the number was 54, 56% of the respondents felt that there needed to be restrictions on cell phone usage, but just during an instructional time for a host of other reasons. So, the thinking was this was a first step. We'll see how this goes. If there's a need to ramp up and to become more stringent and more restrictive, we can always do so and moving forward. But I commend the board for listening, for being responsive, but more importantly, for acting. And it's a board of action that is willing to put themselves out to make changes in the benefit of our kids and our community. So the last several weeks, I've had an opportunity to get out and to visit schools. Even though the buildings are still empty, there's something about this time that's exciting for me. I haven't been a principal for so many years. There's a smell to the building. Ms. Roscoff loves the smell of rooms being freshly waxed and renovated. There's a definite smell, and there's an energy and enthusiasm as well. So if you think about it, for my 10 children, for each one of the children, their experience and whatever grade level they were in was the first time they experienced that. So in spite of the fact that my wife and I may have gone through 10 kindergarten orientations and 10 kindergarten first days, for Colin, number 10 in our family, it was his first experience. So the enthusiasm has to be there for us. So I'm always reminded of that we have new kids coming in. The Yaris family can identify with me here, but I'm reminded of that. And it's always, just so refreshing and it's exciting to welcome new kids in to the district and new kids as they transition up in grades. So September 3rd is only about 21 days away, just in counting fully. Our kids will be back in no time and the buildings will be full. So we are exciting. But with that, there's about 3 weeks left for students to complete summer reading if you have not done so already. So please ensure that summer reading is done and you take advantage of the additional time that's available. Another exciting note, we heard about preschool orientation, but orientation experiences are coming up as well. Tours for schools and just an opportunity to begin to step into the new year. There are many exciting things that are happening. As I've traveled around with the directors and Ms. Roscoff as well, there's a ton of construction taking place across the district, and it's very exciting to see these construction projects come into fruition. Again, I extend kudos to Ms. Sugars and the entire maintenance team. Buildings are prepared and just about ready to go while the construction is taking place. We literally see the buildings being transformed right before our eyes. It's important that we hear from you. We want to hear your voice. We want you to be involved. We are sending surveys out. We send thought exchanges out. I've heard at times a refrain that people say, "Oh, it's just another survey. I don't want to participate because they're not going to listen anyway." We're actually listening. We are listening. We want to hear from you. We have 2 hugely important efforts that will be going forward this year. elementary redistricting, which was referenced earlier, and strategic planning as well, a 5-year strategic plan that will determine our direction, our vision for moving forward, goals and everything else along with that. These processes are at the infancy stages. We're at the early stages. So there was a comment about, for instance, non-negotiables and not being transparent. We're being as transparent as possible. These are initial conversations that are happening. So we want the community to be a part of the process and to be fully aware. They aren't refined yet. They are continuing to be mapped out. It is only a first phase where we are engaging with the community group. How we selected these, we selected various individuals who we've engaged with over time, individuals who are deeply committed to seeing our district get better and improve. And not people who just agree with everything that the administration believes in, but detractors as well, for things that haven't gone as well. It's important for us to engage with this group. We'll continue engaging with other groups and other committees as well as we move forward. But this is just one instance. But as we move forward in the process, we anticipate around January, February, we'll be reaching out to the community to have larger town hall meetings, to really to hear your feedback on a wide scale and to understand how to adjust any recommendations that will be made to the board. Just to follow up with a couple of things as well. If there are concerns about particular staff members, that falls under the purview of the administration, please bring it to the administration. Again, we're listening, we hear, and we respond accordingly. We can't tell you necessarily what's happening, but understand that there's a response that is happening. In reference to the GRIP presentation, that presentation was not developed by the administration. That presentation was developed by Dr. Grip himself. And that information was intended to be presented in a way that was clearly decipherable, that individuals could read and understand all of the information that's contained within his verbose written summary. Did receive an email in reference to the fields, have not had an opportunity to follow up on that. We will follow up on that email as well. And just into the information, Mr. Short, you quoted me this evening, and the information that you presented is a lie. It's misinformation. And what you quoted me as saying is not something that I did say. Again, as you know, I've reached out to you in the past to work on solutions, to work on things, and to work to make things better. That's what I'm all about. So if you want to work to make things better and benefit of this community and our children, I'm game for that. But if not, please quote me correctly in terms of what I said and what I'm all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morton. Appreciate all your comments, and you're inviting everybody in. It's been fantastic, and it continues to be. Make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Mr. Greenbaum, all in favor? Aye, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.